sir.
All right. The meeting will come to order. What's that? Oh, Ken, that may have been for what I heard. So for public information, a copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is posted in the back of the room on the east wall. We'll have roll call.
Harris,
Yes.
Knapper. Here. Meyer. Here. Reisig.
Here.
Blue.
Here.
All right, we're good. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I wanted to mention a couple things this evening. I want to remind all that this meeting is being recorded and it will be broadcast at a later date. So some of the things with that, we want to remind anyone who wants to speak, we'd like for you to come forward to the podium in front of the microphone when you're recognized. We'll have you state your name for the record and spell it for the county clerk, which assists her. I wanted to be sure that I mentioned that we be careful of our language. We've had some swearing and cussing going on in the recent few meetings, and we would ask for that not to be part of it. We also need to all check our cell phones and turn them off or to silent. I've tried to do that tonight, but sometimes, I don't know. We want to remind the commissioners again to speak directly into their microphones and clearly so that your words can be heard when we record the meeting. I also plan to take a break in the middle of the agenda somewhere for about 8 minutes, and we'll break somewhere midway and take a short recess. Also want to say again that Mr. Phil Kelly's here tonight. He's an attorney here in town and he's representing the county on civil affairs. And he plans to be here at the meetings, sitting in for whatever assistance that he can offer, particularly the commissioners, but anyone else that it's appropriate for him to answer questions for. So those are a few things I wanted to get started with tonight. The first item that we need to take care of is an approval of the agenda. Is there any changes?
I don't have any.
Okay. So I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the agenda.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Let's vote electronically. I thought I did. Did I do the open meetings thing?
Yes, you did.
Okay, I thought,
Ken,
You did
this is the very first time.
I need Ken.
Didn't register.
Okay, you have 4 yeses and 1 no.
Okay,
Meyer
motion's,
being the no.
motion's carried, so the agenda is approved. We'll go on then to the next item that we always mention, and that's the board reserves the right to enter into a closed session if deemed necessary. I don't believe we have any particular items on the agenda that would tell us that that's gonna happen, but just in case something comes up, we want you to be aware of it. The next item is the consent agenda. This is intended for one action for all of the items listed on the agenda, the consent agenda with one action unless someone wants to separate one out. Any comments on the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. If we can vote electronically,
Hang on,
okay?
sorry.
Now you're ready?
No, Russ
Oh.
and Mark.
He me-
You have 5 yeses?
Alright, so the motion's carried, the consent agenda is approved. We'll go on to our next item. At 4:30, we have a public hearing scheduled for our fiscal year 2024-2025 Scotts Bluff County budget hearing. And the purpose of the hearing is to get input from the taxpayers. I'm going to officially open the public hearing at this time. And we're gonna let Lisa give the presentation as far as the budget is concerned. And then we'll take comments from the public. Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay, commissioners, we're doing this a little different than we've done in previous years by having the budget hearing at this point. Usually in the past years, we've had the budget hearing and then went ahead and set the tax ask all at the same meeting, which is not recommended anyway, so we're doing it in the correct chronological sequence this time. So, as far as how we present the budget for a budget hearing, I guess I can go through what I have proposed for the joint public hearing. I've put together some slides today. And we can discuss if that's what we want to present, cause we will be presenting at the joint public hearing this year. And also, again, this is the budget hearing, then we go to joint public hearing, and then we're gonna come back and do the property tax ask and approve the budget for fiscal year 24-25, September 26th. I think that's another line item on the agenda to find out exactly what time we're gonna do that. So if everything goes well today and at the hearing, the September 26th should be fairly uneventful, quick meeting, so. Anyway, unless you have a different way, I also put together our budget letter, if we wanna discuss that. It's very much a rough draft at this point, but it just goes through how our fiscal year went and how we propose it for the next year. And we also talked about discussing the pink postcards that people are receiving now, so. Anyway, I'll start with my slides and we can talk about the pink postcards, how's that? Okay, so, the county is responsible for organizing the joint public hearing, whether we're part of it or not. So I have basically the same setup as we've had the last couple of years. And first off, we have asked Randy Meininger to be a moderator for us. He did this for us last year and did a very, very good job as far as keeping the public to 4 minutes and helping to roll through the process of as each presentation happened. So, anyway, these are just the rules of the joint public hearing. That each subdivision is represented at the joint public hearing, has a short presentation, then a comment session to be held at the end of the hearing is after everybody's done and audience members have to sign in order to speak. And we also have a clip for the Nebraska assessors website it's the NACO presentation, takes about 3 minutes and explains the role of the assessor, so.
Are you gonna play that? Okay.
If you wanna see it today, I'll put it out there,
No, I'm
but I
just-
say, we
I
did
was
it
just
last
wondering.
year and I
Okay.
think we'll put it out again. So these are the subdivisions that are represented by our joint public hearing: Scotts Bluff County, City of Terrytown, City of Minnetonka, Gearing Public Schools, and then Baird Public Schools is having their own joint public hearing with Morrill County at a different location, but at the same time. Correct, Kelly? As far as, that's what I found, I think you told me that the other day. So, okay. Our portion. I did a slide first. Keep going.
We do not.
What's
I
that?
was like 5? Did I do it wrong? I have 5.
Okay,
We do
property,
match.
okay. Property taxes are based on an assessed valuation amount set by the Scotts Bluff County Assessor on an annual basis based on market values. And I wanted to do our presentation first, cause I was going through a lot more verbiage here. Property tax revenues increase or decrease due to an increase or decrease in valuation amounts set by the county assessor. And I might have to look at that, that seems like I'm kinda running on there. That's the same thing twice, isn't it? almost, anyway. On an annual basis, the county may also choose to increase the amount levied against these valuation amounts. Our county decreased its levy for 24-25 budget year. Scotts Bluff County 24-25 property tax request is $14,178,695 compared to $13,524,319 last year. The increase in our ask is $654,375 or 4.84% over last year. To avoid this joint public hearing, the pink postcard hearing, the county's ask could only increase $309,306 from last year's tax ask, or 2.29%. This is our real growth plus 2%. And since we exceeded that, we're going to the hearing. So, facts. This is some of the information that we're required to present at the hearing. So, our assessed value increased $246,874,973. A 6.835% increase. Last year's value was $3,612,000. This year's is $3,859,000. The tax rate, which would levy the same amount of property taxes as last year when multiplied by the new total assessed value of property, would be 0.350456 per $100 of assessed value. And again, that's one of the list of questions that that is presented, that you have to put the fact out there. So if we would be levying the same amount as last year, our levy would be 0.35. County budgeted $35,046,868 in revenues for budget year 2025. $14,178,695, or 40.45% of that amount is attributable to property tax. And then of that amount, 13 million goes to the general fund, 787,000 goes to the bond fund. A levy indicates the amount of tax property owners pay for each $100 of valuation of their property. Property tax can be calculated by assessed valuation divided by 100, then multiplied by the levy. The county's requested levy for the budget year 2024 has reduced to 0.36741 compared to 0.374409 last fiscal year. And then here's some examples of how this change in levy will affect citizens. If your home's valued, for instance, at $100,000, the county line in your taxes would have been $374.41. But with this year's tax ask, that changes to $367.41 for a difference of $7. So we did that for each difference value in home.
So Lisa, does that, then that would assume that their value stayed the same, 100,000 to 100,000. Okay.
If their value stays the same, right. And then I put out a slide and said, here's our levy history since 2016. We've been talking about this a lot during our budget meetings this last several weeks. So, from 2016.414 to we are now at 0.367. That is the total of the county plus the bond levy. And this was, I just used an example of the split out of the taxes. Our Keno bar, part of it is taxable. The part that is not the Keno portion, the part that's the restaurant bar, has to pay like $4,000 in taxes, of which the greatest portion of it goes to Scotts Bluff Schools. Scotts Bluff County gets the orangey portion, and then City of Scotts Bluff gets a portion. I mean, this is all information you've all seen before, just how our tax bill is interspersed between each of the agencies that we pay taxes for. Scotts Bluff County proposes to adopt a property tax rate that will cause its levy tax rate to be 0.367410 per $100 of assessed value. And based on the proposed property tax request and changes in other revenue, the total operating expense budget of Scotts Bluff County will be less than last year's by 5.5%. And if you have questions on this is the people to contact. And that's what I have. So one of you can maybe do this next week at the budget, or at the joint public hearing. So. And next, we were just talking about this when I walked into the room, the pink postcards are out. And the county gets a few. This very first one I thought was a really good example. Well, this is a sheriff situation where we own this property now. We didn't own it last year, but you can see the assessed value did not change. Property taxes last year for the county line were $24.07. This year they'll be $23.62. And I put out there another one. This was again the Keno bar. I believe 1001 Avenue I. Taxes for the county go from $863.21 to $864.03 because the valuation did change slightly. So it changed 82 cents. And I wanted to pull out that one too because this one is out in McGrew. We can't sell this parcel. We've tried. But you can see where this Baird Public Schools is also going to their joint public hearing. So they received a card that has two lines, the Scotts Bluff County line and the Baird Schools line, and how their taxes for those subsequent lines will change for next year. So, questions so far? Anything I can address?
And just to, if you guys get any calls, that last one. So if any of your constituents are calling, hearing one and hearing two, and it gives a date and time of location, just so you guys know how to read it also. We will be in Mitchell, but then the Baird schools will be giving their presentation in Baird.
And there's only, again, I'll just call it a small portion of the far eastern part of the county that are in the Baird School District. And so there won't be very many that would have that Baird item on their pink postcard, but there will be a few. So they would have to go to two separate hearings if they like that one, showed like that one, if they were interested in going.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else, Lisa, that you wanna
I'd
present at this point?
I'd say we go through the budget letter, but I don't know that that's that important tonight. We can do
point.
that at the tax ask meeting.
I think, you've presented the facts of where we're at and where our mill levy is and where we, the tax asking number. And, I think it's certainly, sufficient to allow anyone that's here. And I see maybe a few that might be here from the public to, maybe give input on this item. But, if that's all right with you, if you think you're done, then that's for now. We'll let the public give their input and then we'll come back to
One-
you.
Okay, can I have one more
Sure.
thing about this as far as the hearing is concerned? At least one elected official from each participating political subdivision shall attend the joint public hearing. An elected official may be the designated representative from a participating political subdivision, and the presence of a quorum or the participation of elected officials at the joint public hearing does not constitute a meeting, as defined by section 84-1409 of the Open Meetings Acts. So you can all attend. Okay.
And what date is that again?
Tuesday, September 24th. A week from tomorrow. And again, at Mitchell High School Auditorium. Okay.
Alright, very good, appreciate it. So, we'll continue with the public meeting, portion of this, the public hearing. So I would ask if anyone has anything to, talk about concerning the budget. And if so, we'll have you come to the microphone. All right, let the record show there were none. And, we'll officially close the public hearing. And, so as far as, this line item, we're not taking any action. And, So then we can go on to the, next line item, which is discuss and consider who will represent the county, at the statistics at the joint public hearing, at Mitchell on that September 24th date. So, is there any thoughts or suggestions? So it sounds like an elected official, at least one has to be there. They don't have to give the presentation, which means Lisa could maybe do it. And I would only say that I'm not sure that I'm the right one to do it if I intend to vote no. And so, I would only, otherwise, if I was voting yes, I'd be happy to do it. But I think in the fact that I intend to vote no, that it would be probably inappropriate. You might not like what I have to say. And so I would suggest maybe one of the other commissioners do it. Is anyone interested in being the one doing it? Charlie, would you be willing to do it?
Sure.
My motion is for Charlie to present it at the joint public hearing.
I'll second that.
Are you set up for us voting? Is there any other comments? If not, we'll vote digitally. You can go ahead and vote.
Okay to close?
Yep.
And you have 5 yeses.
Okay, so the motion's carried. Charlie, then you would be the person presenting it. Lisa, you'll certainly be there and, help either help go through the slides or at least
Yeah.
make sure it's working.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
So-
Kelly and I'll be there coordinating.
Good, yeah,
Put it together, and Charlie, you can look through my slides one more time and see if you wanna tweak. I can send them to you.
okay. And I would encourage any other commissioners that wanna be there to be there and, just in case there's thoughts or questions.
Get a feel for how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've only had 2 prior, right, and I think I've been to both and it goes pretty, most of them are pretty smooth, so,
It's the after part.
yeah.
Yeah, the question part that can be
Yeah,
touchy.
there is a question part at the end, so. Okay,
Well, there's a comment part, right?
Comments,
We
yeah,
don't
you
have
don't have
to
to-
reply.
Right.
I'm kind of like you, Mark. I'm gonna vote yes on it. But I'm afraid that I do have some concerns about how we reached there.
yeah,
And I don't know whether everybody's gonna be happy with that either.
yeah, with the kind of, and that's why I just don't think I should be the one to be up there to talk about it.
I think
so,
if we're going to be there, we need to be there in total support
Of
of
it.
what's going on.
Right,
And I'm not, but I'm gonna vote yes only to keep it moving.
okay. So I believe that takes care of that item. Anything else on that? If not, we'll move on then to the, road and bridge section of the agenda. And, this again is a public hearing for the 1 and 6 year, 24-25 road improvement program hearing. So, we're gonna let Steve give us his presentation and then we'll open it to public comment at that point after Steve gives his, presentation. So Steve, go ahead if you'd like.
This mouse is jumpy, isn't it? Okay, it's that time of the year again where we have to submit our 1 and 6 to the Nebraska Department of Transportation. I thought I would start off by what we have to do for our Form 11. That is our previous year's report of what we got done the previous year on last year's 1 and 6. All of you should have had these in your packet. Last year we had 12 projects on our 1-year plan. We completed 8 of them. One right now is in the construction process, which is the C-79-145. The other one that did not get done is the River Bridge on the west side, and if you recall that when we first bid that out, the bids were way more than what we ever had money for, so we redid the design and just left that here a few months ago, so that'll be carried over till next year as well. Another one is the Stiegel. That was just for funds. That'll be carried over till this next year. And then the very bottom one, the 449, is a timber deck that is kind of on my wish list to try and get on some bridge slabs on. And that, of course, is a money issue. So I have that again on this year's, hoping that maybe I can work it in somewhere. The projects that we did get done, the cost of what we have cost us to do those projects is listed on these sheets. From the County Road 5 bridge at $364,000, the chip sealing, the 428, 429, one was Sunflower Road, one was Cook Oil Road. We have Highland Road in there, which was the $911,000 that we just did last year. The next one at $128,000 was a concrete pipe. We were able to take out a over 20-foot timber bridge and replace it with a 60-inch concrete pipe. So we were able to get that off our NBIS state list for bridge inspection with the state. The 447 project, that is a chip seal of 1 mile swaddell there. And then the $73,000, that is that experiment farm curve off of Highway 26 that we did. So that is kind of I guess a list of what we were able to complete on last year's 1-year program. So this year I have 10 projects down. Of course, there are 2 carried over. Of course, the bridge deck on the left side, and now the right bridge is also on this year's, because it's supposed to be done by August 31st to be completed in last year's. So, and then the County Road M bridge. So those are the top 3 right there in your 1-year list. Of course, County Road M bridge is going on right now. Besides that, we'll have our chip seal projects in there for this year. We're going to do Sugar Factory Road. We have a small section on 42nd Street that we're going to do. We're going to try doing some patching and overlay our little part to the city limits there. And we're also going to try and get a Highland Road done. We're going to try to do some patching. We got some milling we need to do out there on some heave areas. The next one project is, of course, we are going to try and get that 2 miles of Stiegel Road done off Highway 92. So that'll probably be going out to bid here within the next week, I was told. So, and then another chip seal is Stone Gate from Highland down to Highway 26. So we're shooting about for, we've been averaging probably 16 miles a year for chip sealing. So we do it in 2 weeks. We do a week in June and then a week in August. So number 9 there, that is that 2-span timber deck that I'm just keeping on my wish list that maybe money works out and I can get it done. And then the other one, number 10, that is another NBIS bridge right in the same area as the last one we did last year on 19 and G. It's an over 20-foot timber bridge. It is not in good shape, and this one here will be kind of the same as last. It'll be another 60-inch concrete pipe, and we'll be able to take another bridge off our over 20 list.
Steve, on number 7, on the Stiegel
Yes.
Road, if I remember right, during our issues with Stiegel Road, we were told it was about $1 million a mile. Do that, would that be correct? If that was correct, what are we doing different on this one? Because we're doing 2 miles at $1 million.
I'm going to say the design was different then, probably at the $1 million a mile, because we're just doing a mill 2 inches and fill 2 inches is all we're doing. So for the $1 million a mile, they were probably milling down more and doing a 2-inch leveling layer and then another 2-inch layer on that to get your fine road, and there was probably some sort of, moisture barrier put in there too for that million a mile.
That was the question on the
Yeah.
moisture barrier.
So,
I thought we were going all the way down to dirt and coming back up, but maybe we weren't.
No, I don't think so.
We didn't go
Yeah.
that far.
so,
But it's 2 layers.
right, and
plus the
that would be a
moisture
difference
barrier.
there, cause
Okay.
normally, when you mill more than 2 inches, you're gonna do a leveling layer first before you put your final, layer on. We're not doing that, obviously.
So
when
when
it-
we're finished, is this going to be as sturdy as the other 5 miles or whatever it is to the north or to the south?
I don't know if I wanna call it maybe a sturdy. It
Well,
probably won't be
It's
as,
gonna be similar,
it'll be similar, but it
Right,
won't have
okay.
the moisture barrier in there.
okay.
Other than that, it's probably pretty similar to what we did on all the, at least it's real similar to the one we did when we added on that 2 miles from the original project out there, cause what did we do, 10 miles? And then we added on an emergency thing because the next 2 miles we thought was unsafe. It's gonna be similar to that part there rather
And
than
that's
the
holding
far
up
south
pretty good,
part.
pretty well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is,
Okay.
so.
Okay, thank you.
This is gonna be just identical to what we just did on Highland, spit an image of it, so, is what that'll be.
Steve, you, on number 10 and maybe one of the other ones, you mentioned that the bridge is on the states, did you say NBIS? And I'm assuming that means it's on a list that they want fixed.
It's on the, NBIS is the Nebraska Bridge Inventory System.
Okay.
So every over 20-foot bridge we have, the state has a record of. We have to bridge inspect them. They keep track of all that. They send out when it gets inspected. Anything we do with them, they get record of it.
Okay,
So, that doesn't mean it needs replaced, it just means it's on their system. And we have over 200 of those in this county, so.
okay.
And each one of those we can take off is better, of course. So, concrete pipe's gonna last way longer than any timber bridge, so.
So you're saying it's on their list, and that means that it,
It's on our
Needs some-
inventory, if you wanna call it that,
okay,
yeah. So,
all right,
so we, like, until last year, say we had 205 over 20, inventory, if you wanna call it that. After we took the one off we did last year, now we only have 204. And as we can take those off and make them pipes or get them, under 20 foot, then it comes off the
I see.
Nebraska inventory system, state inventory
so
system.
by doing this work, you're getting them to be less than 20-foot
Yes,
spans,
Right.
okay,
yes,
that's how you get them off.
so, yeah.
Okay,
Silly question, is it still a bridge? At all?
Yes, I'm gonna say yes, it is,
Okay.
because they consider box culverts bridges.
Okay.
So, yes, I would say it would still be considered a bridge in technical terms, yes. So. Those are the 1-year projects I've down. The cost looks like we're gonna be up in the $4.8 million range for those projects. Last year, we were in the $4.3 million range for those. Keep in mind, this 1-year project, it doesn't include graveling, clay repairs we do, ditch cleaning, the timber bridge repairs, we do, signs, the culvert repairs. This is just, I guess, the major hit type items you put on here. So, and technically, I don't have to put chip sealing on there because it's considered maintenance, but I put it on here so we have a record of the year when it was done, and it's just a good way to keep track of it, so.
if you're saying it's 4 million and Lisa's not there, but 2 million of that is ARPA funds, right?
Yes,
And
yes,
so really, we're doing $2 million worth of upgrades, or maybe even less than that,
right.
because,
So we're at 4.3, I think the bridge is at 2.1, so we're doing,
About 2
maybe about 2 million. if you
These
look
are
at
all
it.
estimates, we all know that.
Right, and these are all projected costs,
Yeah,
so,
It
these
could,
are,
it could come in less, could come in
right,
more.
right,
but
So-
without the ARPA money, we'd be doing half.
yeah.
And the ARPA money's gonna be used up in this fiscal year, we think.
Not till the next fiscal year, because it's gotta be done at the end of 2025, and the bridge won't be done till 2025, so the next fiscal year is when that ARPA funds will come out.
So,
Am I talking the same fiscal year as you are?
well,
So-
I'm not sure now. So I thought that the east side of the bridge that we're working on now, that's gonna be done in a month or two,
Hopefully the end of the
right?
week.
Yeah,
That'll come out of this year's
okay.
budget. The
And
west
then
one,
The
will be-
west one.
it'll
And
have
when
portions
will-
come
we
out of
will
this
start-
year.
We will start that in December, I thought.
December,
someone said.
yes. So there'll be portions. When they do these projects, we get billing as they do the project throughout the process. They submit
Okay.
so much money.
So
So
some
part
of
of it will be
in-
this year, some will be in the next year. Cause it's not due to be done till the end of 2025.
It's gonna be after July of
So it'll be after
2025
July
March.
first of 2025 before that west bridge is done.
July of 25,
Did
but
you
that
say
doesn't
10
mean
months?
it's gonna take 13 months to complete the project. You're not talking
No, that's,
calendar
months.
year 25, you're talking the fiscal year.
calendar year 25.
So when do you think that, how long do you think
So
that
if
bridge
it
is
starts in
gonna take?
December, if it starts in December of 24, it's due to be done in December of 25. So that's 11 months, 12 months, right? So part of it will come out of this year's budget, part will come out of the next year fiscal budget.
Are we suggesting that bridge is gonna be closed for a year?
It could be closed for 10 months, yeah,
Okay, no, I
Yeah.
didn't
yeah, it's,
recognize that, I don't
yeah,
think.
the deck's coming off of it, so,
That's what I remember about it,
Yeah.
was 10 months.
yeah. So, in
Okay.
the wintertime in December, they're gonna work on deconstruction, and then it gets nice, they'll start forming and pouring back and all that, so, yeah, it's a long project, so.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I have
I
at this
mean,
point.
I'm telling you, it's gonna be done in December. On their contract, they say they need 210 days, construction days. So it may not be closed that long. It
Which
all
is-
depends on how they get along, I suppose, and what they run into and weather
But,
delays or
Yeah,
whatever.
210 work days is
Yes,
about a year,
yeah,
isn't it?
well, yeah, I mean, it's,
Alright.
so,
We don't get any city help from either Careytown or Scotts Bluff, right?
no,
How did we inherit that bridge right between two towns?
because there's a state statute that says any bridge in the county over 30 feet long, the county's responsible for.
There you go.
Yeah, can you change that? That'd be nice.
Your senator.
But that's not the way it used to be.
I
Years
couldn't
ago.
tell you if that was or not. I'm not
I
sure.
don't think it was that way.
From what I've seen, it's been the counties for a long time. I mean, it hasn't, so, yeah.
Okay. So, I was asked this week again, yeah, but isn't there any way to run two-way traffic on the one side? And I know there's major traffic control issues, that would have to be dealt with, but I don't need an answer on that right now. But I'm just throwing it out there.
I can tell you what I did here just a week ago is, cause I had a couple business owners that were concerned about their business, rightfully so. I mean, it's a long time to be closed. So I reached out to, the city of Scotts Bluff, Mark Bull, chief of police over there, Kevin Spencer. I did the same for the city of Gearing, Sheriff Overman, and emergency management, and Nathan Flowers, and reached out to them and asked them all if there was any way they thought that this, could be done, two-way in it, any way, to make it safe and whatever, and not one of them said to two-way
To
it.
do it that way.
Every one of them said stick with the detour route. It's
Okay.
not a safe way.
Well, I do
So,
appreciate you asking and
yeah,
checking
and
it
I
out.
can forward that emails to you guys if you would like to see those, so. Any other questions there?
You still have some
Yeah,
other
we still
things
have
to
a
go
six-year
over here.
plan.
Right.
That six-year plan is, just projects in the next 6 years that we've been shooting for. Last year, there was 27 on it, now there's 25. I pulled 2 of them off and put them up on the one-year plan. I have not added anything to that. I don't see any sense in making a huge list of projects when you never know what your funding's gonna be like, so. And with my one-year plan, I try to keep it realistic for what we can get done in 1 year, so. There's some more overlays on the 6-year project. One that is on there we'll have to get done, I'm not sure on the year, is the third from the bottom, C-79-442, that's the Cook Oil Bridge, that's the one we just got the bridge match for, the last selection, so that'll have to be coming up here. But there's more, some chip sealing on there and also, so, those are, if you look at the total price of that, you get up over, you're up at, what, 15 million, projected costs for those 6-year projects, so. And let's see. And in your books, there's a, I guess I didn't put that on there. There's a 6-year list if anybody wants to see it.
Is it in our book here?
Yes, all that's is in your book.
I must have missed it.
It's probably in the back, cause also in your book you have maps.
About midway back, it looks
And the maps, we're required to put these in, and alls it really does is specify where the project is at. And you have 2 forms of maps in there. One is a state classification map, the other one is the national classification map. That's what they require. So. I didn't figure I needed to go over the maps too much. Everybody kinda knows where every bridge is, so.
And this 1 and 6-year plan is, required by the state,
Yes, yep. Every year.
That's why we do it.
Yeah, this is good through August 31st, for the projects, and every year you're required to do a new 1 and 6. And we keep it in there, and they get one, and, you know, they can come in, and I suppose the Board of Classification Standards can come in and do an audit if they wanted to at some point, so. In your books, you also have what are called WP sheets, work progress sheets. That's just the sheets that the state likes to have for every project. It lists what classification the road is, road width, what type of road it is at this point, you know, what your plan is for the road, stuff like that is what's on that, so.
Steve, even, and I hate to go back even to the
Okay.
one, County Road 19, are we doing anything with that at all?
Which part of 19? Are you talking
Well,
the asphalt
Yeah.
part?
Yeah. Are you just
We'll probably have something in
maintaining
the
it now?
works with that coming up, because I have somebody invested in, or somebody interested in spending some money on it. So, if something comes up where we can do something with it, we simply do a Form 10.
I mean,
and
it's,
add
I
it
don't
on
know
there.
that's
So,
that bad, but every once in a while, I'll get a call and wanting to know
Right.
about what we're gonna do about
Right.
County Road 19. I think it's still
It's not
okay.
awful. It's got some cracking that's getting
Yeah.
pretty deep on it, but,
So that's from the Riverview Golf Course at Highway 92 up to Highway
correct,
26.
correct, yeah.
I think
It's not in the shape like Stiegel is, or even as bad as
Well, the-
Spring
Not that
Creek
bad.
or
The
The
some of those,
first part's in
but,
pretty good shape. It's that second part that people are, that I'm getting the complaints on.
right, right.
And there,
So-
I think there was some, when that all went down, maybe not, we didn't do it quite as good as we did the south half. That's what I'm guessing.
That was already paid when I
Yeah.
started, so I don't
Yeah.
know how they did that. I know there's one area where we thought maybe the city has a water line leaking because it's really sunk down, but the city says no.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but without digging it out, but, so. At this point, really, outside of maybe maintenance, just filling some cracks in that, nothing planned with it.
Okay.
But, I do have an individual that wants to meet with me, and he's interested in spending some money on it, of his own money. I don't know if I like that or not, because he really shouldn't have to spend his own money, but he wanted to enter that area in like an SID years ago and was shut down on it, so that topic may be coming back, so.
Okay, do you have anything else, Steve?
Not as far as the hearing or projects planned anyway, no.
Okay. Well, I think if that concludes your part of this, then I think we should go to the public hearing portion and give anyone in the audience, that might be here for the 1 and 6-year street, or road improvement program. This is a public hearing. Certainly allow anybody to speak on this item if anyone wants to. All right, seeing none, let the record reflect there were none, and, we would, let me just ask if any other commissioners have any questions on this item for Steve? Or comments? Okay. If not, then, that will certainly conclude the public hearing portion of this. And then the next part of this item is to discuss and consider approval of the 1 and 6 year resolution. You did, include a resolution in our packet.
I did. I can read that, or if you're happy with what you read in your packets, it's the same resolution, just
It is.
saying there's no objections to the 1 and 6 year street plan, being held today. That there was copy legal notice put in the paper. Legally, we only have to do it once. I put it in there 3 times.
Okay.
Also, as far as advertising, we hang them up in all the post offices. We're only supposed to do 3 places, but we do it in Gearing, Lyman, Morrill, Mitchell, Minutair, Velveeta, McGrew, so we put them all up, so,
This is the standard language
Yep.
like we've used before.
yes.
Any,
I would move approval of the 1 and 6 year plan as presented,
okay, and the resolution.
and the resolution, yeah.
Yep.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution and the 1 and 6 year street plan. Is there any other discussion? If not, we'll go ahead and vote electronically.
And you're having them sign it? You'll come see me? Okay.
Did we vote, Kelly?
I'm sorry.
Have we voted?
You did with 5 yeses.
5 yeses, so the motion's carried, and, so the resolution is adopted. It appears that we all need to sign this, is that right, Steve?
Yes.
So let's go back to that end and. Okay, then I believe that takes care of the road and bridge items, is that right, Steve?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Yep. Okay. We'll move on to the, general agenda items. The first one is discuss and consider approval of an SDL or special designated license for BR Entertainment LLC.
And there are, it's SDLs, we do have 2. Here comes Sheriff.
Okay,
Gentlemen, we've looked at both SDLs and the sheriff's office has no objection.
They had one last year, I believe, and it must have went okay.
Yeah.
Who is BR Entertainment?
Heights Tavern.
Ben Rodriguez.
I think it says somewhere else on there who they are. Oh, it's,
Ben
it's,
Rodriguez.
Ben, that's Heights Tavern, Ben, Rodriguez, Ben Ramirez is his name. Anyhow, last year he was here and that was his first SDL ever. And since then, he's had others and there's no issues with him. There's no issues at his bar. And he's been in that bar for a couple of years.
Okay. All right, we appreciate your comment on it.
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks.
yeah.
I'll move to approve the SDLs for BR Entertainment LLC.
I'll second it.
That's both of them in one motion, right, Kelly?
Yes.
All right. Any other comments? If not, we'll go ahead and vote electronically.
You have 5 yeses?
All right, so the motion's carried, and, so it's approved, thank you. The next item is to discuss and consider appointment of public defender. The board, Ken, I think maybe you asked for this to be put on,
They did.
so maybe,
We put out, lots of work. We wanna hire somebody, applications, not applications.
Posted job.
Posted the job. We received one applicant, who is our acting public defender right now. I've done what I think my due diligence into checking to see what's going on. The office is running very smoothly. The employees of that office are happy with the leadership that they have. It doesn't appear that we're going to have any other applicants for that job. I think it's time to move on and appoint the public defender.
Okay. Any comments, from those in attendance, and then we'll go to commissioners here. I see Mr. Meister's in the back, which is good. But, okay, then let's go to any comments from the commissioners.
Is that elected a position after it's established, or?
He'll finish out the role of Paul Payne,
Yeah,
and then he'll run if he decides to run.
I got you.
So that would be in 2 years, right? The, elected official positions, they're, other than the commissioners, they're all come due in the same 4-year cycle, right?
Oh, really?
That's what I thought.
And commissioners
Who are you
split.
asking?
He's
I'm looking at Lisa, but I was 90% sure that's, yeah.
I
you
run the
ought-
elections.
You ought to know.
You ought to be the one to answer that.
Yeah, but it is, that's correct,
That
isn't
is
it?
correct.
Right, and the commissioners are split up 2 and 3 depending on the off year. Okay? So yeah, this appointment would basically be for 2 years. And then, yeah, he or whoever would need to run for that position in 2 years. Okay, any other comments or questions? All right, then I'd entertain a motion.
I would move that we appoint Mike Meister, the acting public defender, to the public defender's position.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We can vote electronically.
You have 5 yeses.
Okay, so the motion's
Congratulations,
carried.
Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Mike, for what you've done, and, I haven't had any, concerns or questions from public or employees or any others, so we appreciate, what you've been doing and wish you the best as you continue forward, so.
Kelly will be dragging you over to the judge's office to have you sworn in. That's what she does, yeah.
All right, thanks. Okay, I think we'll do one more item before we take a break. So the next one is to discuss and consider a request by Frank Alfaro and Wetlands of America Trust for a conservation easement located in parts of government lots 7, 10, and 11 with accretion, section 6, township 22 north, range 55 west. Bill?
So they're wishing to do a conservation easement. It's in some river ground. It's over off where you turn off of Highway 26 onto Spring Creek Road there. There's several other that surround that property too. So the planning commission did make recommendation for approval on that by a 6-0 vote.
Okay,
And then Todd's here to give you the rundown on
he
everything else.
normally gives us
Yep.
some kind of briefing on it, so go ahead.
Gentlemen, I'm Todd McQuav, 116 North Dewey, North Platte, Nebraska. I'm an attorney from North Platte, does work for Duxton Limited and Wetlands of America Trust, which is the arm of Duxton Limited that holds the conservation easements. You've seen me multiple times before. This easement is no different than the other easements have been approved. As mentioned, the planning did approve it. The property is located approximately 4 miles west of Scotts Bluff. It's about 71.92 acres of non-cultivated, all accretion ground. Mr. Frank O'Farrell is here actually tonight as well. Most of that property's been leased for grazing, There's about 3.7 acres of wetlands on an acre for a building site. The conservation easement proposal doesn't change the use of the property, still can be used for agriculture, used for recreation, hunting and so forth, and grazing. The property, and in your packet, and I don't have it, in the blue is the property. The 4 properties to the west of it, all are in a Duxton Limited conservation easement that you've all, or the county has approved. This is just another one right next to it. You know, as you all know, there's hundreds of thousands of waterfowl that migrate through here every year, stop over in the spring and then the fall. And this is an area that Duxton Limited has an interest in because it makes the most sense for the type of area to preserve. The limitations are with this is you cannot subdivide it and sell off parcels. And the reason for that is because once you start to fragment these areas, it kind of ruins it for wildlife, and also actually ruins it for hunting purposes, and also for agriculture purposes when you get it cut into what I call ranchettes of 10 or 15 acres situation. You know, buildings can't be built on it, and but likely that wouldn't happen. This is the property blown up, and all the speckled areas is preliminary floodplain. So this entire property is in the preliminary floodplain. So unlikely you'd ever see any type of building being built there. There is a 1 acre building site area that buildings could be built in if they wanted to. The property, as we all know, a generation ago kind of was worthless. Now you see it sometimes as the most valuable property being sold. Landowner still's got to pay the property taxes on it. It's still assessed by the assessor for what its use is. If it's used for agriculture, assessed that way. If it's only recreation, it's assessed that way.
Accretion land changes, you know, just with the flow of the river. So let's say that river shifts to the north and cuts off 5 acres of that, deposits it on the south side of the river. Does this go away if the guy on the other side of the river owns that land then? Because that becomes part of the other side of the river.
It depends. There's 2 different arguments on that. If the river shifts because of just slow accretion, then the boundary shifts with the river.
So it moves with it.
Moves with the river channel. If the channel shifts because of what they call avulsion, which is like a giant flood or something man-made to cause it to shift, then the boundary line stays where it was before, even though the river channel shifts.
So it could be across the river, so this would be on somebody else's property that somebody else would use.
It would not be, because the only ability to give a conservation easement has to be by the landowner themselves. So therefore, if the ownership shifts because the river shifts, this particular easement has a provision in it that allows it to be changed for the boundary. So it doesn't get pushed onto a boundary, to a landowner who doesn't want it.
That's what I'm wondering, because, you know, if, in case it would, you know.
It wouldn't, because it has to be the boundary, it has to be the landowner themselves that actually grant the easement.
Okay. So would that naturally just go away on its own then? If the river shifted, does it just go away, or does it have to come in and be removed?
Well, if the ownership shifts because the river shifts, then it would be adjusted in accordance with the easement itself.
Right.
So we wouldn't have to come back here for that approval. It would be correct.
It'd be automatic.
Within the easement itself.
Just written up that way in your.
It's to allow for boundary changes.
Okay, good.
Correct.
That happened, like when we had the big flood 3 years ago, well, the river changed, and I lost about 3 acres because of that.
Yeah.
And now it's over here this way. The river was this way.
So that's what I was wondering, if
Now
it
it's
would,
this way.
if it would be on the other side, if it would still be enforced or, you know, ruled that way.
It would not, because it'd be a different owner. You know, there's people have said before, do these things devalue the value of the property itself? Well, it doesn't for tax purposes, because the assessor taxes it based on what its use is. And also, we've had some that is sold out here that actually didn't reduce its value because most of the time it's being purchased for hunting purposes. And so they actually like the conservation easement from that standpoint.
Most of the guidelines are you can't build on it, or you can't really improve it, it's pretty much remains for wildlife.
Correct. In this particular case, this isn't properties that are cultivated, but we've had before you properties that had irrigated cultivated ground, that can still stay as irrigated cultivated ground on these. That's not in this situation, but, and the reason for that is in part, the waterfowl need that type of grain. So Ducks Unlimited doesn't want to restrict the ability to cultivate it, to use it for grain purposes. But again, in this property, it's just grazing land from that standpoint.
Also, if they decide that they do wanna cultivate it or plant it, they're okay to do all of that.
Not on this property, no. It could be grazed, but it can't be cultivated. In part, this property probably wouldn't have that cultivation going on because you're all in this accretion
Okay.
area anyway. But to answer your question, if they wanted to go in and cultivate and plant crops into it, because it was never cultivated before, they couldn't do that.
That's part of the, okay, I got you.
But if at the time these go in, it had been cultivated, then it's still allowed. The county can still condemn on this property if it needs to have a road to go through it or a power line like that. Statutes still provide that it can be condemned for that. There's about 98% of the property in Nebraska is privately owned, which is an incredible good thing for the state citizens. But the only way to try and preserve some of this property like this is through the conservation easements. Like, when you have Wyoming or Colorado, you've got about 50–60% of the properties owned by state or federal, which that's their protection part of it. So in this state, you have to use the conservation easements. Right now, there's about 0.5% of property in Nebraska in a conservation easement. It doesn't make sense if every piece of property would be in a conservation easement because some properties just don't lend themselves to wildlife type properties. But in this case, this type, but Ducks Unlimited is interested in, so is the landowner. There's about $150,000 if this gets approved to go into wetlands restoration that likely will go to, local contractors from that standpoint. Any questions anyone has?
I'll just make what I think is my standard comment, and that's that if, the only, time that I've had any concern on these is if we start to get into a closer proximity to, areas that might be developed or have high probability for, development for whether it be business or other things. And I know we've had, a couple properties, just a little east of Scotts Bluff and Gearing that have, come up. But I don't believe this one fits into that category at all. I don't see this being a, highly, sought after property for development. And because of that, I'm not gonna have a problem with the easement.
Yeah, and you're correct, and part of it is under the state statutes, planning looked at it as inconsistent with your comprehensive plan. And the comprehensive plan, it talks about, future development, trying to basically keep it out of the 100-year floodplain. And any type of development is strongly discouraged where you've got this entire property in the floodplain. So some of those issues would make sense to show that this is not inconsistent with your comprehensive plan.
Any other comments?
Who initiates the request here? Was it the landowner? Was it Ducks Unlimited?
It's actually the landowner that inquires of Ducks Unlimited and say, is my property the type that would make sense to be under a conservation easement? Then Ducks Unlimited looks at it, kind of makes a determination with yay or nay on that from those discussions. And Mr. O'Farrell is here too, and just a little background on he was a school teacher here for 38 years. He's now at the college that's teaching. owned this property since '94.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
94.
95, somewhere in there.
Bob, what is the advantage for the landowner to do that? I mean, is there, other than just to protect it, is that the only reason?
A part of it is there's a part payment from Wetlands America to the landowner for that. The other benefit is about, in this case, about $150,000 in funds to go in and develop to improve the wetlands.
Okay.
Which, you know, most of this property, and Mr. Alfaro's leased most of it for grazing, but also used for recreation and hunting, so it increases the.
But he can continue to lease it for grazing then?
He can, yes.
So he'll have improvements then along, they'll either shore up or put riprap on the river or do something like that?
Won't be that, not riprap, it'll more likely be off the river in the low areas that have overgrown with plants that really doesn't make sense for waterfowl. So they'll go back in, they'll dig those down a couple feet deep to get them down below the water table, so it'll make more of a wetland area than waterfowl like.
Cause right now, my sloughs that are there at the creek,
It all
just
wash,
clogged with cattails, I mean, you can't even see the water anymore.
I got you.
It's just, that's what they're doing for it, they're just cleaning out the sloughs and the creeks that's there.
So it certainly could, enhance the value of the hunting lease that goes with it?
Exactly, because it'll make it theoretically worth more
More
money,
valuable.
property, because of that.
Okay.
From that standpoint.
And then you mentioned, that, an initial payment that the property owner receives. Is that a one-time initial payment, or is that annual?
One time.
One time. But then the, improvements happen, and then does Ducks Unlimited, have an intention then after that to, keep it improved? Is that part of the agreement, or a one-time improvement?
Well, it's a one-time improvement. They have gone back at times where they say, okay, we did this initial improvement. It looks like we could do more improvements, but right now it's just the initial improvement for the $150,000. If it was to grow back up again for any reason or fill back in, I have seen them go back in and clean them out, but there's nothing that requires Ducks Unlimited to do that.
Okay, thanks.
Most of that
Right.
money that I get, I understand, and it's, but, you know, I have to donate that money back, right?
Some of the money donates back,
Yeah, back,
but
Okay.
a majority of it is used for the contractor
Yeah.
who does the.
The work.
I do the work,
Okay.
pay the money.
Any other comments or questions?
I would move approval of the request.
I'll second.
Alright, so that is a resolution, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So there's a motion to approve the request, / resolution. And there's a second as well. Any other thoughts? Alright, we'll go ahead and vote. Okay.
You have 5 yeses?
Alright, motion's carried and looks like it passed. Thank you for your help again. Okay, we're gonna take a 8-minute recess, so we'll be back at 5:46. Okay?
5:46?
5:46. Russ?
He's hearing you.
Yeah, I thought he was back there. Here it comes. 5:46.
Got another minute.
No, All right, the meeting will come back to order, and, we'll go on to the next item on the agenda. The next item is to discuss and consider combining departments, as necessary. It was tabled from the August 19th meeting, and, Commissioner Reisig, I think, asked for it to be brought back up, under general agenda items, so Commissioner Reisig, we'll go to you.
Okay, well, we had cut, the assessor's budget by about $175,000, $150,000 for labor, and, I think 25,000 for overtime, so we're gonna need to put some people in there to help with that. This assessor's department is the only department that actually brings revenue to this county. Everything else draws revenue. The assessor's department actually goes out, puts the value on, finds the amount we're gonna charge for, you know, the taxes. And so, we're gonna need some people to help with that part of it, so.
How much did you say we cut in personnel out of that department?
I thought it was 150 on labor. We cut that on his,
We didn't cut any personnel.
he wanted to hire 2 people, so we cut that 150,000. That was the 2 people that he wanted to hire, was the 150, is that right?
We just cut one of those positions, plus the overtime that he's getting from using other employees from other departments.
Well, he was wanting 3, cause he was gonna replace 1 and hire 2, there was 3.
We weren't counting the one that he was replacing. The only thing that we were talking about were the 2 new ones. That,
So, we still have gotta replace 2. So, cause there
what
was
about the
3.
what about the other departments that could use help? That aren't getting the help?
Well, we've cut everybody, road and bridges contributed a
Well,
lot.
we cut everybody but the assessor.
We did cut the assessor, you took 175,000 from the assessor.
We didn't cut. We didn't cut, he asked for new positions, and you're on a hiring freeze, but you wanna add positions, so you'll have to justify that.
We're not hiring anybody
We're
new,
not-
that's why we're gonna like to move some horizontally.
We never took an action of a hiring freeze.
I never took, where
That
did
was
that come from?
mentioned
Oh,
in,
is- okay. I
at
thought
one
that's-
meeting, but we never took an action on that.
There's nothing
Okay.
on that.
Alright. if
But I
that's
know
how
it
you
was
state
mentioned once.
Yeah. I guess it wasn't taken seriously.
Yeah, that never happened.
So Steve can add his positions back that you were cutting out at the time of budget? Cause of the hiring freeze, we said he was not going to hire new positions, so we took
Where
him
did
out
you
of
get
his
the
budget.
hiring freeze?
You talked about it.
We didn't do anything.
You asked for cuts.
We certainly,
We talked about it. We never made a decision that the county was on a hiring freeze. We picked a couple positions from a couple different departments to say, we're not gonna fill those specific positions.
Oh.
That's what we did.
So they,
I think the topic came up when we were deciding what we were going to do to get the budget in line. And one of the suggestions was a hiring freeze. And you're right, it wasn't voted on, but I think everybody was under the assumption that we were looking at not adding any personnel to any department.
Until that happens, until I vote on it, as far as I'm concerned, that ain't happened. And we can't do that at this point. We've got road and bridge. If somebody drops out, we've gotta put people back in there. We just can't stop hiring people. Sheriff's Department, everybody else needs people.
And I think the hiring freeze was more for adding personnel, not replacing personnel that either leave or get fired or whatever the case might be. That was my impression of it, but I've
Okay,
been wrong before.
that's fine.
well, what I remember was, Charlie specifically mentioned a potential hiring freeze, and at that point in time, it was mentioned, and the intent at that point in time was that we were trying to get, to making sure we stayed off the pink postcard. And, it was mentioned as one of the potential ways of, making sure that the budget stayed at a minimal level. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that there's no other departments that, ask for additional people, as far as I know. Now, that may, I don't know whether, if we talk about the county attorney or public defender, I'm not sure it's additional people, it's people they had previously, but maybe positions not filled. And I certainly don't believe that we talked about, positions not filled, that were in effect before, but maybe person had, left, and whether or not a person would be, picked back up, but we never discussed it to that extent, and when Charlie made the comment, I don't know exactly how far a hiring freeze was intended to go, but, but we certainly never took a vote on that, but I think, I will admit that, I believe that most of us all agreed that it was not the intent to be hiring any additional people. I believe that, and certainly, his budget, when it came to us, asked for 2 additional people. I do understand that.
Well, I think one of the things, and I wasn't going to, but I'm going to. When we were going through all of this, he stood right out here and said, held up his budget and said, this is my budget, and I'm not going to make any changes. I don't know that anybody else could get away with that. I think if Steve stood in front of us, and it happened, I don't know if you remember or not, the previous, actually she walked out when we wanted to do some cutting, and we brought her back in to
That was
visit.
a other road and bridge lady?
Yeah, it was-
I remember that.
Right, right. So it didn't appear that there was going to be any negotiation on that budget, and I personally, I mean, everybody else worked very hard.
I don't think anybody else really came back and cut their budget any again.
I think every
We've had-
department made cuts.
Well, the first round, I'm sure they did at the
Yeah.
very first round. I don't think anybody came back in the second round and had a whole significant cut of any sort.
Sheriff did.
Sure.
Sheriff came in and
So did Road and
for
Bridge,
the
but not
detention?
everybody across the board did.
Well, there were some that
Mapping
couldn't.
Mapping never cut a dollar.
There were some that couldn't. You get your smaller departments that are bare bones now. There wasn't nothing else to cut from.
But that's right,
Yeah.
there's a lot of them that didn't cut.
And
he's
just to
trying
add people to this office because they bring in revenue, of course they do. They collect all the taxes. And
And it takes people there to do that.
I understand that. And so we'll go back to what the agenda item is, and that's combining departments.
Right.
I was against this from the start, and after talking and listening to a lot of different folks, I'm even against it even more. You have a department that has been in effect for decades and doing well. We have the assessor's office, nothing against the assessor's office, is relatively new. You don't have any, you've got an assessor that's been there for less than a year, and most of the personnel. And I think until they get their feet on the ground and can figure out what's going on and what's going to happen, I don't think that's a good reason to be disrupting a whole nother department the other thing, and we talked about it, and I think it's a good idea, is to use people from other departments that have the expertise. If in fact it hits a point where, I'm overwhelmed, I need some help, move somebody over. We've done that.
We have, but we end up paying overtime and extra expenses to do that.
We don't have to pay overtime if they're doing it on county time.
If we can do it that way, yeah, but that's not what they wish to do. We've been paying a lot of overtime.
That was our fault for allowing that to happen.
Well, that's.
Now, if you're gonna work after hours or weekends, I can understand that. But if you're here from 7:30 to 4 or 8 to 4, whatever the hours are, and if we can move over and give a hand, and I don't care whether it's the assessor's office or the deed's office, if she needs help, and somebody can come over and give her, if she's shorthanded, that's called cooperation. That's not consolidation. It's called cooperation.
Hadn't been happening a lot without the overtime.
Well, I'm even more against it now than I was when we
Well, that's
first started.
fine, that's
Yeah,
fine.
you know.
You're sure welcome to vote on that.
And as far as budget saving is concerned, the only way it's gonna work is if you cut some wages somewhere. And now you're penalizing people for what reason?
don't believe we're penalizing anyone, I believe.
Well, if you're gonna cut their wages, you certainly are.
Well, it depends on the type of work they do.
If you've got somebody that's in a position here, and we're gonna consolidate that, and now they're gonna be in a position here, what kind, did they have a bad evaluation? Did they have something that's going to get them a cut in pay?
No.
Okay,
sure didn't.
then that's, I think we need to be careful of that.
Well, what I remember is the last time we were in here working the numbers, we cut one person out of the proposed assessor's budget.
He's asking for two, right?
He was asking for two new, and we cut one.
Okay,
And then we cut other
overtime.
expenses as well on light items, and I don't remember exactly
That's
what
right.
those were. But we certainly, do you remember what they were, Lisa?
Oh, I can point out stuff, but yeah, he wanted two new positions,
Right,
and he wanted to continue to pay one of our employees to go down there after hours and pay $1,500 a month, cause this is what I guess I should.
That's after hours though, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, here it is, this is the original. Adding two employees, and then one person to be paid extra every month, over 40 hours.
I believe that was, set for protest is what that money was for.
Well,
he
it
put
was
it
also,
in
it was
for every
also
month.
back when we were trying to build the department too.
This is
when we
Robert's
didn't have anybody
spreadsheet.
there.
So, and then you wanted to, and we made changes, we took out some overtime, reduced some, I guess I don't think we did. Let's see, I have that highlighted, HSA, but we didn't reduce that. Contract persons down to 70,000, and that reappraisal,
yeah, the reappraisal was at half,
and that's it.
because we tried to
This year, pay half this year.
talk about doing half this year, half next year.
And just point of clarification, I'm not for any department that needs help and we're not giving the help that they need in order to do their job. That hasn't been proven to me yet, as far as that, but it may someday, once everybody's on board, everybody has their, whatever it is that they need to get, their trainings and things are moving, and we get overwhelmed, then maybe we need to take a look at it. I don't know that we've reached that point yet, not in that particular department. They're doing fine, I'm not saying they're not doing anything bad, but that's, again, unless, budget savings, I don't see it unless you cut salaries, and I'm not for cutting salaries.
What we're saving is gonna be by not hiring those other two people, utilizing two people that we have.
So, I guess, if I could ask again, if we look on the sheet that you just gave us, and we look on the assessor line, which is the second line, then, of course, and we start way back, this goes back to 1980, and then 1990, and then 2001, and then every year thereafter.
Yeah,
And it was-
Commissioner Knapper asked for this information, if anybody wants to see it. It's FTE numbers for the last several years.
In all departments, I believe. And so, those, were at, 7 full-time equivalent in 16, 17, 18, and 19. Went down to 6 in 20, 6 in 21, and then dropped to 4.
This is as of January 1st, so it doesn't mean we didn't have a job posting going on, trying to.
That's right. We may have been trying to fill a position, and if I'm not mistaken, isn't, that partially, when did Amy leave? Does anyone remember for sure?
She left in 2019 or 2020, cause
I
I
think it
come
was
on.
January
board
2021.
I thought it was 2019 or 2020.
It was it was after COVID.
She wasn't here when I came on in 2021, when I came on, she wasn't here.
So
That's
my
right.
We probably
That's right, 'cause
accepted
you
her
were- it was Angie.
We appointed,
right.
Angie.
So my suspicion is that we had a drop in employees, with Angie down to 4. And then we ended up with 6 in the beginning of 23 apparently. And now in the beginning of 24, we had 5. And so,
One,
You had one person.
We got, Mark, we got
Well,
Amy's resignation
actually,
letter,
I had
January 11th.
three,
You guys
but
acted on it in
two were
21.
gone shortly after.
And one
January 11th and when?
So you were just.
21.
You built
21.
from the ground up.
Right.
And that's when it was effective,
That's when you took action to receive her resignation.
Okay.
yes.
right? So, Kelly is saying officially it was January of 21 when Amy resigned. And then, so my point is, we had 7, 7, 7, and then 6 and 6, and then went to 4, 6, and 5. And my argument when we were looking the original time was you gave us even a, sheet that was only for the assessor's office, and you included it in the assessor's budget file, tab. And I thought, based upon what I was seeing, you were trying to point out that we didn't have as many people as what we used to. Now, maybe you weren't trying to say that.
I'm just saying, we're the, yes, cause when you and I came on and talked to Amy, we went down to 6.
Okay? So,
She, her deputy, and 4 employees,
alright,
But wasn't there
and they raised
Something-
the rate.
something else happened electronically? I don't know what it was.
well, we have this letter
the
that
word?
came from, Ashley the last time that we met with her, and it talked about pictometry.
Yeah, I believe
That's it.
And it talked about how that the pictometry, would cause at least the assessor's office to be able to, it says the assessor's office is down 1 employee, and that would be cut from her budget if we went with pictometry, right? So Amy was saying at that time that she needed 1 less person because of pictometry.
At that point, Kelly became the clerk, and her applicants were coming in very slow to replace Kelly, so she came to you and I pulled you in and said, I can operate with 6, but I think they all need to be, their wages reevaluated. And we reevaluated everybody's wages, cause they were 4 very strong employees with quite a bit of longevity, at least 2 of them did.
Well, and that, of course, was, in my
2019.
opinion, again, yeah, that was Amy saying that.
Yes.
And Amy had a strong opinion, and Amy is an elected official, and I believe Amy had the authority to do it anyway, and that's what she said. I'm gonna do it anyway.
She doesn't raise wages without going through my office.
If she asked for them to be raised, it's my understanding she could do it. She has that authority.
With justification.
And where does it say that in the personnel? I mean,
Yes. Yeah,
I don't
It's
know
got-
that it says that anyplace else, because what it says otherwise is that, elected officials get to do basically what they want,
except for
other than our budget,
their employees are county employees, they follow the policy.
The personnel policy manual that we've, I believe because we've adopted a personnel policy manual, they are required to follow part of that.
Yes.
And maybe Mr. Kelly can confirm that for us at a later date.
Later date's the operative term, so.
Right. Yeah, cause it,
We went
I don't
through
think
all
we
this
need to know that.
with Mr. Long when he came through this. We have a personnel board, they follow the rules of the personnel manual.
The, and I don't remember it exactly that way, but it could be, I'm not
If
saying
they're
it isn't.
employees or county employees. Okay,
Yeah,
if you don't
I
remember,
agree,
I'm sorry.
I don't, yeah. Again, it may very well be that way, I just can't confirm that off the top of my head.
But it's been a bone of contention for a long time. I think we finally got it cleared up.
Right.
That once you become a county
Now you're
employee,
making it cloud
you follow
again.
the rules and regulations of the personnel manual.
And that's only because we have a personnel policy manual, and only that,
And a personnel
because
board.
other than that, what's that?
And a personnel board,
Well, that's what I
That
mean,
covers
that's part of it, right?
right?
That's part of we have a personnel policy board that affects change in the personnel policy manual. And, keeping in mind, yes, we are the only county that has that, other than the largest counties, is what I understand. That's what NACO told us. True? You don't remember that. I don't remember the other part, but
When did we talk to NACO about that? You must
oh, a
have
long
talked to
time
NACO,
ago.
and did
Yeah,
you
a long
share
time
it?
ago. But that's what I understood,
And
was
this
that
was
they
put in
checked
place
into
in,
it,
and this was
and-
put in place in 1997,
right?
so it
And
isn't
so
like we just
we
put
can
it all
argue about the
together.
personnel policy board, but that, tonight's probably not the purpose for it, but,
You need help.
yeah, cause I still have an opinion about that, but not everybody else does, so.
I know.
And I recognize that I was in the minority before. But my point to all that is still the number of people. And I thought you were trying to make a point when you made that sheet up and put it in the assessor tab, that you thought that his number was lower than what it used to be. But maybe that's not at all what you had
No,
intended.
I'm thinking he didn't need the extra employees.
So you thought that the 5 that we were talking about was enough?
I never said 5, there are 6. I mean, they've run with the staff of 6, maybe 7, cause he has very new staff. He also has a person with 9 years of experience down there. So, I mean, it's
But
not like they're brand.
everybody else is less than a year. Steve's just had a year.
They're all a year, they're all within a year, I don't, you know,
Working with us, Shavana has, what, 9 years?
She's got 9 years' experience, but I'm
but I
talking
mean
about
with us.
within the county.
Yeah.
Most of them are new. New
All of them
employees.
are new.
Yeah, they're
Even
all-
the assessor, everyone there.
that was my point, is that they're all a year or less. And I'm not against taking a look at it when we get maybe farther down the line. I think right now we need to leave it as it is. And use some cooperation from other departments to those individuals that know how to do it and can step in and fill in and help out.
So this sheet that you prepared for us said 5. In 2024, he had 5.
Yeah.
And so what are you saying that you intended by that?
Just the history of it, I mean, you had many years with 10 and 12 or whatever, however many,
Right?
so.
And all the way up to 13 in '01. But then that dropped, and I'm assuming hopefully with technology and some things like that, that'll, should have allowed that to drop. And then we had 5. My point to that is that I believe, we had 6 in 23 and 5 in 24. And I, at the very least, felt that, that one extra person was certainly within the approved, and I wasn't having a big problem with 2, with
Wow.
a new assessor, but I agreed to when it was discussed about taking one out and only funding 1, I didn't have a problem with that.
So that'll put him back up to 6 then, correct?
Oh, he's looking for 8 if he'd add 2, then it would be 7, which is 1 new person and then replacing Tracy Allred.
So that'll be 7,
So it was.
That's what we have budgeted right now.
okay.
Okay, so I think
I'm just,
the bigger question is still the question of the mapping versus, whether we think mapping should be a part of the assessor's office or, whether we should combine that or not.
It should either be a part of assessing or deeds, but it should be combined with something, like the rest of the counties. We got 5 counties that aren't doing that.
There are other counties that don't have a jail.
Yeah, well, we're not talking about jails tonight, though,
Well,
Ken.
I understand that, but if you're gonna compare to other counties,
Well, that's what it's about, is we gotta look at where we can save some money. I'm talking about dollars and cents here. I'm looking at a $300,000 budget, which is $1 million every 3 years. How long does it take to pay back $1 million? Are we getting $1 million worth of maps? I don't feel like we are. We're surely getting some value, but not $1 million worth in 3 years. I've been here 3.5 years.
so we started this process in January, November maybe, where we combined the weed department with the road department. And now we're looking at combining the mapping department with the assessor's office. And the reasoning for doing this is to find efficiencies, to find where opportunities where departments can help each other. And in this case, this becomes one department, and we're gonna find some efficiencies there. There's gonna be some overlap in job duties, and this is not the final consolidation that I anticipate. I anticipate us finding more opportunities in the future, for that first floor and in the basement down there. Also out in the road department and the bus barn. I think every department needs to start looking for ways, if they don't want the commissioners finding ways to save money, and if the other departments don't want the commissioners consolidating the departments, then those other departments need to start coming forward with their own suggestions on how to do this.
I agree.
Because tonight I'm prepared to vote in favor of this. And I'm not gonna go too much more into the details, but I'll just remind you guys of what I said, or to please remember what I said in the executive session. And those are my reasons for, being in favor of this consolidation.
if you remember what I said in that executive session is the reason I don't wanna do it.
Did we already have a motion on this item?
No,
Okay, so I would only say that, from my standpoint, I would just say that, I am willing to vote for us to do the consolidation. I am, one of the things that, I did bring up before, and, wanna be sure that this is, appropriate and, acceptable. I know it's acceptable, but, you know, the mapping department was originally part of the assessor's office. And then it got split off, I believe, from, yeah, and some people would say it wasn't officially part of, but it was just down there. It was by the assessor's
actually, it
office.
was the surveyor's office was down there.
Right,
Which
and-
he handled mapping.
And mapping was part of the surveyor's
part of his
office,
job.
really.
Was
It wasn't part of the assessors, it was
That's
part of the
It was
surveyor's
just located
office.
there, that's
Right.
correct.
I think I'm glad you corrected me on that.
You're exactly right.
So anyway, I believe that, that was done, and then for a long time it was there. Then it got split out and it was separated. And one of the things then that it was, when it was separated, it was, a county employee department head. When, I don't know whether Susie was the first one, but now Ashley, meaning that it was not being ran by an elected official. It was being ran by a department head
Appointed.
that was supervised by the commissioners. And, it is true that I, am cautious of giving that thought up. But we've already talked one other time at least about the idea that if this happens, that we want to be sure that we have the ability to take it back into our domain, so to speak.
If we
And
choose.
so, Phil, I think that would be an important part for me, and I think the rest of the commissioners would agree with that. That we would have the ability to take the mapping department back if we see it to be the right thing. Again, one of the things that I wanted to always be clear about sometimes is that, again, one of these days, we're all gonna be gone. The mapping people will not be there. The assessor will not be there. And at some point in time, there may be some other thoughts and opinions, and I just wanna be sure that, future commissioner groups would have the authority and the ability to, pull the mapping part out and run it separately. And so however that we would need to, deal with that, Phil, that would be important to me.
Let me ask, how many of you are fully aware how the mapping department operates? How much time have you spent in there?
I spent quite a little time in there,
And so
Last year.
you're fully aware of how the mapping department operates, Bill? Okay.
and I've visited with the first responders who use their services
I see.
after hours, so I
Okay.
understand what they do.
I just find it interesting that we're all experts on, on how other departments operate.
I don't think we're
Yeah.
any more of an expert than what you are.
That's
And
And I'm not.
Okay.
I'll be the first to say it.
And
I am not.
I did spend a lot of time in their office in my first 4 years of being
We
here.
both did.
Back in the days when we had the assessor, the mapping, and the state all making us meet together to get some things done. That, and there was lots of finger pointing in all kinds of directions.
There's no doubt.
Um,
That's for sure.
I commented, several years ago that I had over 3,000 emails from, because what we finally agreed to is that the only way we were gonna communicate was by email, so that it could be verified what somebody said. Because somebody said one thing and then somebody said, no, you never said that, you said something else. And so we went to all emails, and I had over 3,000 emails in that 4-year period
That oughta covered it.
that I was, being involved. And so I was pretty involved at that time. I haven't been the last 3, or 2.
I'll excuse.
Okay.
All right.
But
Because
in
I
all
know
of
you've
the
got it.
departments that we supervise, or, we're not experts in very many of them, that's
Not
for
at all.
sure.
Don't wanna be.
That's what we hire people to do for us.
So, can I ask a question? You made a comment that you want me to look into a situation about you're moving a department back in, under an elected official, and you wanna make sure that you can reverse that later on.
That we would have the authority to do that later,
Okay?
we or
Would
any
that go
other
in our
commissioner
Pardon
group.
me?
Would that go into the resolution?
Well, maybe we need the answer to that before you do it.
Right, I'm not sure,
I don't know.
right,
I think the only thing we would do is, because we have the authority to set the budget for the assessor, we would X those mapping budget items from the assessor's budget, and we would pull those out and put them into a separate mapping budget.
So I'll give you a general overview of what departments versus elected officials' responsibilities, and you can have that soon, and that doesn't affect what decision you make tonight.
That sounds good.
well, and I would suggest that, possibly, that, and or, possibly some type of a motion that would suggest that it is, that it would, cause I think we need to make a decision on that it would be our intention to do one or the other as far as combining, and that, the details to be ironed out through the,
Yeah,
county
potential-
attorney to
you-
put the details
yeah,
together.
potential personnel policy issues and to review and
Right.
a
But that,
number of things,
the
so,
intent would be for it to be combined or not combined, and the final, written agreement and or if you want to call it resolution or whatever, to be, ironed out with the, county attorney, Mr. Kelly. And then that way, at least we'd know where we're headed,
you know, we can,
and then it would, because, yeah, I think we need to know that, in an effort, if we're gonna have you spend the time doing all that, I think we ought to know where we're headed, in my opinion.
So let's talk some more about the decreases in salary. You guys all okay with that?
I've certainly seen we have the, sheet that was given to us that would list that, and I think that, it would have to be, I don't know that these exact numbers would have to be, approved, but, I do believe that, there may be some changes in assessor and or, mapping personnel. And I realize that it could get changed there. And then I guess I would ask again on that same line of thinking. And that's, you don't have to answer me now, but we're talking about how that someone can't be raised because of the personnel manual. And so does the same thing hold true if something or somebody, was intended to be lowered? And does Lisa have full authority on that,
well, I haven't looked at the purple book she's got.
right? I know,
I need
and,
to look at
and
that
I'm not
book yet.
asking for an answer today.
I understand.
I'm just hoping that's part of what you look into when we talk about this.
Sure.
Because she is telling me that that's what happens on the going up side of things. And so does that also, suggest that you have authority then on the going down side of things?
Why wouldn't I?
Well,
If
that's,
the shoe fits and if you have comparability statistics for a person of what their job description's gonna be, then we have to decide what range we pay them at and where they're at and how many years of service and what step they're on.
right, and then I guess, then the ultimate authority being, I guess, commissioners.
So by doing this, and I'm hearing that you're now in favor of that, is that all the personnel in the mapping department will now be under the control of the assessor, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you're okay with all that?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm not at all. Not even close, sorry, guys.
It's fine.
So if there's any more comment, and if not, then I guess, I believe we'd be ready for a motion.
Okay.
You should consider, with the fact that you want me to do some investigation and reporting back to you, that you could potentially make a motion to do this and have an effective date of some point after you get more information
From the
from,
attorney.
from myself and Lisa
Do you have
about
a suggested date you'd like?
a month. information back to you by the middle of October, by your second meeting in October. It's just a thought, because otherwise, if you just do it now, you have lots of unanswered questions, and everybody will be saying, well, what do we do? So, having an effective date later on lets everyone work through a process of getting those details ironed out, so there won't be chaos.
So we would have a meeting, I think I can see that calendar, October 21st, I believe. And we could discuss it at that time with a potential, being effective either the 21st or the 22nd maybe.
Sure. So you can have information so that you're gonna, decisions about salaries and responsibilities or whatever else is gonna come up, personnel manual issues, so we have some time to report back to you. And the report's
Actually,
gonna come
and that
back.
was the reason for my question. If it gets moved down to the assessor's office, the assessor has the priority or the choice of doing whatever he wants to do. But in whatever salary schedule you would like to do it,
That's
higher or lower.
question I gotta.
Well, that's the
You'll have to
question.
go through the personnel board, Ken, just like everything
Well,
else.
what I'm saying is that now they become employees of an elected official. And that elected official will decide at what position they're going to be and what salary they're going to be.
No, they don't. Remember, that still goes through
still
this
goes
office.
through her.
They're county employees.
All right, well, as long as there's a cushion or some type of protection there.
Yeah,
And I'm still not for it, but.
and I'll be interested in Phil's information
And I'm
to
gonna
us
have
on
that to
all
you
of that.
before October 21st.
Right, if you have it available to us, we might even discuss it some at the next meeting. But if you're not ready, that's fine, we'll do it the 21st, or you can forward the information to each of us individually.
I'm really concerned. We've lost 4 people out of that department.
You're gonna have
I
a
don't wanna
turnover in
lose
there.
any more.
That's a tough department to work in.
Well, it may very well be.
Tougher
I'm
than
sure
I
it is. As I say, I don't know enough about it to know how it works.
So, based upon that, information, I guess, do you specifically have a recommendation as to, I think you know how Mr. Reisig, or what his motion he wants to do. Would you have a suggestion of the language to that, to make that work?
Well, I think you're saying that you want to combine the mapping department with the assessor's office. And the effective date of that will be, potentially October 22nd, or maybe November 1st for payroll and things like that. So that you can get, so you're making a decision to do it, and then you're gonna gather information about the effect of that and how it's gonna work, so that you can implement it. Does it make sense to implement it on is November 1st payday?
21st
October
would be
21st. 21st to the 20th is our pay cycle.
Okay, so then we can have it to be implemented on October 21st or 22nd.
So it should have been implemented that night.
Or it could be November, or it could be January. It doesn't have to be.
Could be,
That's up to them.
I have one
particularly
other
if,
item along with I have almost everything that you said there, but I have one more item that they would work under the assessor's supervision. That's the only thing that I included.
Well, I didn't hear you.
That the department would work under the assessor's supervision.
Well, if you combine them into the assessor's office, yes,
that's what
So we
it
can
is.
leave that out.
they'll be in the
That's what it
assessor's
would
office.
Pardon me?
That's what the effect would be that.
That'd be better if we call it out.
Are you willing to hear from either, is the assessor here?
He was here earlier.
Ashley, do you have anything to say? You said what you need to say. Okay.
And I think it should be pointed out that we have met with, both entities, so to speak, on
Robert,
more than one occasion.
So when I have a question regarding boundaries on my election
stuff that I can find in Beacon. Under his supervision, will I get the help I've been getting?
Maybe.
And when it's time to redistrict every 10 years, am I going to have that dedicated help?
Well, one of the things we
That's
haven't-
from my department alone, is my
Well,
question.
let me just say that, you know, we've got a couple calls from a couple other entities. And one of the things that has been said, and I don't know that this has to be part of the wordage in whatever document that's prepared, but our intent is to, not suffer in any area of level of service. We've had that question from some of the fire departments and emergency management people, and we're having it for you, or from you, and, the goal and the intent was to not have a change in the level of service at this point. So I guess, Russ, do we have a official motion then?
I have a motion.
Okay.
Did you write it down so that I can copy from you, please?
You can just listen to it right here. I don't have it wrote down. I'm gonna make it up as I go. I'm gonna make a motion to combine the mapping department with the assessor's office to reduce cost in both departments and, to work under the assessor's supervision, to be effective the second meeting in October, 21st of October, 2024.
So we have a motion, is that, okay with Phil? He's nodding his head yes. Do we have a second to that?
I'll second that.
So we have a motion and a second for the combination with the details being looked at and to be ironed out between now and the 21st. And the details gone over at least then or sooner if you have them available to us.
We'll have them available before that.
Good, that we can be looking at. So that's the motion. Any other discussion? Let's vote electronically.
You have 4 yeses and 1 no, nay from Meyer.
Okay, so the motion's carried, and, then we'll let you work on that, Phil. Okay, we'll go to the next item on the agenda. So the next item is to discuss and consider time for September 26th meeting to set property tax request and adopt the budget. Lisa, Kelly, your thoughts there?
Did you like my time?
I can't remember what you said, Kelly.
I really liked noon, when we did it last year.
Noon, you say?
Just wondering what time on the 26th would work for you,
Yeah.
and hoping
So-
to not have an evening meeting.
It shouldn't take,
It shouldn't take very long with the assumption that, again, we didn't have anyone here for the public hearing tonight. And many times we have very little comment when we adopt it. So Kelly's suggestion is noon. Does anyone have a problem with that?
I think that's when we did it last year.
Right.
Seems right.
Works good for me.
I think I can be okay with that. All right, so
Lisa,
do you
does
need
that
a
work for
motion
you?
to that effect?
yeah.
Okay. So I would move that we, set the time for December 26th, at noon to set the property tax request and adopt the budget. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, go ahead and vote.
You've got 5 yeses?
Alright, so the motion carried, so it'll be noon on the 26th.
We forgot to have you let them see on this TV until you needed it again.
They,
Oh.
they can see. Or you announce it.
Okay,
Yeah, I guess so.
That one, it's my decision.
so we're going to the next item on the agenda, on the back. Ms. Kelly, I like this on an 8.5 by 11.
Good.
Um,
Shame on me for using up the paper Vera ordered.
so, oh, well, that's a good reason to use it, so. Alright, the next item is to, the next 4 items is items in the personnel policy manual that was discussed by the Personnel Policy Board. So the first one is discuss and consider personnel policy, 1700 .003, Scotts Bluff County fueling facility policy. Of course, this is new based upon the new fueling facility. Lisa?
Okay, I'll just read the policy as we've put it together. All county personnel using the county fueling facility on Rundell Road are required to adhere to the following policies. 1, use only the county issued fuel card that is assigned to the vehicle being fueled. 2, always use the county fueling facility to refill fuel county vehicles with the following exceptions. A, when traveling out of town for training, conferences, corrections department, transport, etc., when refueling is necessary to return to your workplace. B, when the county fueling facility is non-operational due to mechanical, electrical, or other issues. And C, fueling locally at another site while fueling facility is operational is not acceptable. Employee will be responsible for charges. 3, refueling any non-county vehicles at the county fueling facility is strictly prohibited. 4, refueling intervals are to be determined by each department to ensure all vehicles have adequate fuel to perform their duties with minimal delays or interruptions to refuel. 5, the requirement for printed receipts is to be determined by each department. 6, when a fuel card and or door key fob is lost or destroyed, employees are required to report to supervisor or facilities management director as soon as possible so the lost card and or key fob can be deactivated and a new card or fob can be issued. 7, all fuel spills should be reported to the facilities management department immediately, and the employee should use the spill kit in the storage container to mitigate the spill to the best of their ability. 8, any problems, malfunctions, or issues encountered by an employee are to be reported to the facilities management department immediately. 9, employees fueling county vehicles after hours are expected to make sure the storage container door and fence gate at the dispenser are locked before leaving the facility. And Kurt wrote the policy on our behalf here.
That's really good. Do you have a spill containment plan of any sort other than just, your, I guess your, your floor dry? Yeah, but do you have any of the sponges that soak up, so if it gets into the sewer drain?
Spill kit,
Yeah,
booms.
okay.
Wasn't that part of the fire marshal's requirement?
Alright, but how do you train whoever's there to, is there gonna be a little training thing of some sort with that, Kurt? Just so they know how to use it.
Can be, hasn't been brought up.
Okay, well, I just was wondering, cause that,
Let me talk to Jay, and I don't know if, Irma might have anything available.
They might.
We can check and see if they've got any videos or anything like that. If not, Jay and I can
Well-
look at the, I mean, mainly it's the few departments, sheriff's, transport, us, and assessor.
could you even put a signboard in there with step-by-step instructions for anybody, a new hire that hasn't been through that, so if there would be a problem, that there would be in this box, there or that, and you could put this in your,
We actually are working on putting that into our training, but we can
I'm just wondering
take
if there's
that
a
and
way, just,
extrapolate it from our training policy.
Put it up
I'll
there.
forward it to department heads once we get it finalized, and then maybe we can I can have a
Placard made,
placard or a little
Sign.
sign.
something like that would be
Right.
great, just so, it would, if NERMA came out and it wasn't there, I think we'd be in a kind of a pickle without that, so I was just thinking if we could come up with something.
There might even be something on
that would cover,
Pre-made that I can order on.
I love that, and then if we had a video available, I love that too. Where we require them to watch certain videos, and, at some point that could be added. And at some point in time when those are available, you could add to this policy, but for now, I think this one works.
Yeah.
Works
Has
good.
there been any time that it's been not working in the last few weeks? Cause I did see when I went through the claims that there was detention center vehicles had filled up at Legacy at late August, so
Is everybody using it now, Kurt, or
they're supposed to be.
which department is not?
The only department that doesn't use it, normally county vehicles is, Steve, still, they still have their separate gas and fuel tank. But his fuel contract, they have their regular gas and their diesel tanks that they still use.
But it's the same product that you're doing out of
I
the
don't know if
Keyman?
they're doing
there's,
that.
his is gonna be cheaper, cause they're bringing it on a tanker
We're doing a
versus
full
a.
tanker load, and I don't know if, what roads and bridges use it, usually 87 or 85. We're using 87, and now per the sheriff's request for their warranty on their vehicles.
Well, can't
And
Steve
we're getting
use
it way
Steve
cheaper.
could use that too, couldn't
Oh,
he?
he sure could.
And
But we
it
talked
may,
about
once
that.
their facility ages out, cause it's pretty old, that's why we couldn't use it, we didn't have that.
And maybe use it for diesel or something.
Pardon?
And use that for diesel, so you maybe get a better deal on
It is
diesel.
actually set up. to
That's
have
what I was hoping they
another
would use
tank.
those fuel tanks for, those
It's
gas
set up
tanks.
for two separate dispensers, so down the road, we can expand it with some savings, because the dispenser we have is set up to run two separate, the actual machine that you're restraining your car and everything with is set up to be able to dispense multiple fuels.
So does Steve have gasoline and diesel at the other two sites?
Yes.
Both.
The other
Okay.
two sites?
So, yeah.
Yes,
Does he have-
Minutair.
Minutair and
Do they have
Mitchell.
them out there too?
So I think, I'm not sure how he does his refilling, if that truck that fuels here goes and then gets loaded the same day or not. I
And
don't
then I think he has
So-
a fuel in Lyman as well, he has diesel in Lyman.
But he's not part of that
He's not
fueling
using that
station
too.
right
It's-
now.
it's
We need to get him
detention
to
center,
convert over.
Sheriff's Department, Transit, County Assessor, County Attorney, Facilities Manager.
He doesn't have that many gas other than the foreman's
All their
pickups and
pickups,
stuff.
all their pickups and things are gas, and they have a lot of small motors and things.
6 departments currently,
Okay.
and I've got it set up, I think it's working. Each department head, I sent them samples of the reports and how they looked, and I have it set up to auto-generate an invoice report to them first, like the third of the month for the previous month.
The, so the issue that I see a little bit on Steve's, and Russ, I know you'll be working with Steve, but, it's maybe a simple procedure when he's fueling out here. It's not quite such a simple deal at the other two
No,
locations.
you can't do it, but just like what Ken said is exactly right. If he would use that facility, those tanks that he's got the gas in, he could bring a bigger tank load in and fuel a lot more diesel in those other tanks.
Right, put diesel in those two tanks.
Right.
So, we can work on that.
So,
Right.
other than that, working on an auto, Wesco's gonna, giving Jay a price, I think it was less than $600 to put a automatic monitoring system on there that pings once a day or several times a day, monitors fuel level, automatically generates to them. At that level,
They bring some more.
bring a truck.
You don't have to call them and
monitor.
tell them, yeah. Okay. Sheriff, did you have a comment?
I had one comment as I was listening to this. Fueling locally at another site, well, if its fueling facility is operational, not acceptable, employer will be responsible for charges. There's, for the sheriff's department, and, you know, we've kept our cars for co-op. We've told everybody to fuel there and everybody's fueling there. But we've kept our co-op cars. There are times when we may have a deputy out there that needs gas and is in the middle of something and can stop at co-op and get gas, can't come here. And so, we've left the cars out there, and, I don't expect it to happen very often. But the, but the thing is, that's gonna come to us and we will deal with it. We understand what the rules are, we agree with the rules. And so, if they're doing that, they're gonna have to defend it, and we haven't had anybody routinely doing that.
I think that's gonna be hard for us to enforce, little line
Yeah,
Right.
it probably will. I mean, I really don't.
Disclaimer in there of some sort.
Just so you know that there could be some exceptions. When
Right.
that place is open and somebody for some reason gets low in budget, could be
And they're immoral.
one of our transport vans and so anyhow, could be exceptions, but that's not something that you're gonna have to deal with.
Shouldn't be.
It's something that I'm gonna have to deal with.
Should be something you, whoever, you have to justify it to.
We'll
Lisa or
justify
whoever.
it and, you know, it'll be on a claim and go to Lisa.
And it would be a rare exception.
I think it'll be a rare exception. I think I know of one exception. So far, since it was right after it opened, it was me.
Yeah,
It was me.
well, right after,
It
I
was a-
can
it was a-
understand.
It was a day where
Someone
we had
forgot or,
It was a day where we had 3 wrecks in a row. And I had been out, and that was a day when we had 3 serious wrecks, 1 fatality, and I went to all of them because there was no troopers to go and very few of us to go.
If you've got a vehicle that's out of town, you're doing something.
Sure.
I mean, there needs to be
Right.
a little bit of leeway with
No,
it.
There is
okay.
a
It says-
exception for that.
It says in there, that out of town travel is okay.
Okay.
The other thing, I think we could put some little notes in there like those, one of those sticky things that says, please don't let this tank blow 1.5 tank, so they always stay full and a half tank.
Our guys, so far, we haven't had issues, so.
That shouldn't happen if you're
but
always
each,
half.
each department may have to review their situation.
I just wanted to let you know
Good.
that.
Okay.
So
think
I,
that-
with sitting on the personnel policy, board, I would only say that, and Jean's here, she's part of that. Lisa helps be part of that, and I would only say that, this was, I think, a good start, and, Steve was part of this, and I think it'll end up getting added on to as we go. But I think it's a good start, and I certainly would recommend that we
And
approve.
whether it matters or not, there was just an audit finding by the state auditor regarding state of Nebraska employees who have fueling stations in these towns like Scotts Bluff, there's 2 or 3 here. And they were dinging employees that work for the state for going to other locations and purchasing their
Within
fuel.
the same community.
Yeah, I mean, this happened all across the state, but it was noted that if you have a fueling facility in your area, they should be using that for their state cars. So, I mean, like you said, we'll be monitoring it and adding and enhancing. Just
So-
I
once,
don't think they get dinged if it's for a emergency situation with, like the sheriffs with law
Right,
enforcement.
if they deem it to be
Right,
critical,
yeah.
then we're gonna all be okay with that.
yeah,
Correct.
as long as it isn't, oh, it's 6 o'clock and we're just too tired to go out there and unhook everything, so let's just go here.
And that's Mark's, call to make.
Right. So, we do each one of these separately, and, Kelly, you're set up that way, right? All right, so is there a motion to approve this policy?
I move that we adopt and approve the policy on the fueling facility.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
So we have a motion and a second, any other discussion? Go ahead and vote.
You have 5 yeses.
Okay, motion's carried and it's adopted. Go to the next one, consider policy number 1925.000, which is the county energy efficiency policy.
Okay. We put this together quickly because right now we are applying for an energy efficient grant. And it was brought to our attention by the person who is helping us write this grant that it's very helpful to have an energy efficiency policy. So, actually I kinda pirated this from UNL and made it apply to us, so. Scope. This policy applies to all buildings owned and operated by Scotts Bluff County. Policy statement guiding principle. Scotts Bluff County is committed to reducing energy use, increasing utility operational efficiencies, and reducing energy costs to the greatest degree possible. Energy management and conservation initiatives have been put in place to achieve greater efficiency. Scotts Bluff County will, reduce energy costs, eliminate waste, and conserve energy resources by using energy efficient and cost-effective technology, incorporate energy efficiency into the decision-making process during the design and acquisition of facilities and equipment, increase energy efficiency through capital investment and improved operations, establish partnerships with government and outside organizations to provide technical assistance and to share costs on energy conserving initiatives to the extent possible. Temperature settings. County buildings are equipped with a variety of environmental controls. Heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, HVAC operations, will mirror the hours of primary building occupancy. Space temperatures maintained during designated unoccupied hours may not be suitable for normal activities. For the purposes of this policy, primary building occupancy shall be defined as Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Temperature settings in all spaces during occupied periods will be heated to a target temperature of 70 degrees during the winter, whenever it is economically and technically feasible. Night setback features of the building automation system will be utilized to allow temperatures to drop back to 55 degrees during unoccupied periods. Cooled to a temperature of 74 degrees in centrally air-conditioned spaces during the summer. Whenever it is economically and technically feasible, night setback features of the building automation system will be utilized to allow temperatures to rise to 85 degrees Fahrenheit during unoccupied periods. Building thermostats shall be set by facilities maintenance and operations to provide the greatest operating efficiency. Temperatures may fluctuate within the building around these set points, and every effort will be made to stay within 2 degrees of this range. Supplemental electric heaters shall only be used in case of long-term system malfunctions and as authorized and provided by the facilities manager. No other use of electric heaters is allowed, and unauthorized heaters will be removed. Occupants who control their own thermostats are expected to adhere to these settings. Occupant opportunities. Technology and policies can only go so far in reducing energy consumption. In the end, those of us who work in the county buildings have numerous opportunities to save on energy expenditures and achieve a healthier workplace. The following steps could greatly assist the effort to control costs and environmental impact. Report observations of excessive energy use and concerns to facilities management. Turn off lights in any room where white lights are no longer needed. Turn off computers, monitors, printers, and photocopiers when you leave your office for the evening. Information technology policy should be followed. Turn off coffee pots and similar appliances when they are not in use. Radios and TVs should be turned off when out of the office. Wear clothing appropriate to the season and weather. Lightweight clothing in summer and warmer clothes in winter. Wear layers so you can adapt to varying conditions in your workspace and still be comfortable. In winter, drapes or blinds should be open when windows are in direct sunlight or to utilize daylight over artificial light, and closed otherwise. During summer, close drapes or blinds to prevent direct sunlight from entering the room. Try not to use windows for temperature control. Notify your building maintenance reporter if your work area is overheated in the winter or overcooled in the summer. Do not habitually open a window to get rid of excess heat in the winter. Reason for the policy. Expenditures for utilities compete directly with resources available for the county operations, including staff compensation. Every dollar we save in energy expense will flow directly into more necessary business expenditures. Accordingly, Scotts Bluff County has adopted this policy as part of an effort to maximize the resources available for its core missions. And for additional contacts, you can call this number or utilize the MaintainX system. We have the JS set up.
Lisa, what was the number you had before the 85 degrees? Was it different, or did you just highlight that?
Well, I think it was kind of one of those we just used.
Cool to 74.
What's that? Cool to 74.
Yeah, but I'm talking
What
about
was
the
it before?
Yeah, was it
I don't know if we
Didn't
had
have
one, or if that
You
was something,
added
it was, 85 was questioned. Cause the question that got brought up the night of our meeting is, what if people do come in and work on Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon and they can't stand 85 degrees in
85 would cook.
July? So,
And if it's 100 degrees for 2 weeks, how long is it
takes a lot more, I think you burn up a lot more energy. Weekends I can see it, but I can't see doing it overnight. I can see
And
doing
it-
it on a weekend.
And the same thing going up
Right.
in the winter.
Exactly.
But it does say, unoccupied periods. And so, I hate to think that we're gonna heat or cool an entire building for one person
That
working,
might come in.
and what areas can be done, but the one item I wanted to add to this was, and use some common sense. And I think, that's what this all is about, is just simple common sense, and it basically appoints, Jay as the policeman to be sure you're using common sense.
Like our building out there has horrible insulation, Jay's
Yeah.
trying to work on that, but we have to put a programmable thermostat in there. I have a program for a weekend program, a weekday program, and I have a lockbox on it.
Are you talking to bus barn or your office?
Our office, we have our
Okay.
own HVAC system
'Cause
for our
that
office.
$1 million bus barn ought to be just perfect when
Ah.
it comes to all that, yeah.
The,
It's, I have a lockbox on it too, so it doesn't get too hot in the winter, and of course in summer, it gets
our air conditioner goes off, you know, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon typically. And, it was set at 73, and like this morning when I went in, it had only raised to 77. Now, I'm a little more in an insulated office
Our
area,
building-
but,
when we get those back to back to back 155
right, it'll go
days,
on up,
by
yeah.
about 3 o'clock, it can't keep
It won't
up,
keep
and
up,
by the
yeah.
time we close at 7, it's 80 plus degrees.
Yeah.
So, when we have, if we get some insulation, it will help, but
It-
we do try to drop it a little bit more, so it lasts a little longer.
Jean, let's let you comment, she is also the new president or chairperson of the, Personnel Policy Board.
Madam
So,
President,
Yeah. So, Jean, why don't you comment on this?
could I get people to come to the microphone? You were
come to the
supposed to help
microphone.
me with that
Yeah,
today.
and I'm not doing it, we let that other guy talk.
Sorry,
I
Jean.
need to walk.
Okay.
I think the intent though was to rely on Jay to use his best judgment in times of really cold weather or really warm weather, whether he turns it up to that or down, you know, just depending on what's going on with the weather. Because I think we're gonna use more energy to get it from 55 to 70 than we would if we just left it at 65 all night.
True story.
Didn't we
Well,
have
not
some
so far down.
offices, and I'm assuming the heating system is going to maybe take care of that, some offices
I'm hoping that it will, because like, you know,
in the winter time, they were using fans and keeping
oh,
the door
oh,
open
yeah,
because it was
yeah.
85 degrees in the office.
So I'm hoping the new,
HVAC.
thing that he installed is going to take care of a lot of that. And it actually has helped when they got it up and running after that period in June. I think it's been, this is probably the best summer we've had. Okay.
Kelly's got a hot on.
Well, she's
ask me.
freezing all the time
You
wearing her
can't ask
winter
me.
coat,
Yeah.
so, but it's not been crazy, so.
This all makes sense, of course, we all do this at home, hopefully.
Right.
But,
Was it
the
the
fact
last meeting?
is, we're putting it in writing because of the grant
Right.
money. And, but it's a good start, again, I would suggest it's a start, and if we need to tweak it a little bit along the way, we can.
Right,
It's a good start.
exactly. We gotta have something in order to get the grant.
Right.
So, but we're gonna rely on Jay and his staff to use their best judgment.
Be sure and put enough money in that grant for her some long underwear.
And I believe when we had our policy board meeting, we only had 3 out of 5, I think, in attendance. But I believe this was passed,
Yes, I don't think anybody, we all voted for it.
right, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure why I highlighted that yellow, but Jay looked at
Probably
it
to
and he was.
see if that's a decent number, cause that seems really high. It seems like really high no matter if somebody's here or not.
I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the current Scotts Bluff County Energy Efficiency Policy number 1925.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second, any discussion? We'll vote.
You have 5 yeses?
Motion's carried. We'll go on to the next item for the Personnel Board, which is, policy number 3010.000, probationary employee.
Section D. Now just know, there's a section A that discusses the nature, duration, and purpose of a new employee. And B, conditions preliminary to being, given status. C, talks about separation during probationary period. Now this one, qualifying for status in a position. No employee shall be given status in a promotional position until he or she have satisfactorily completed a qualifying period of 3 to 6 months. And the book or the policy says it now, it's 6 to 12 months. This is a promotional position, like we've promoted a corrections officer to a shift supervisor. So, instead of waiting 6 to 12 months for that person to have satisfied their probation, we wanted to say 3 to 6 months. Mr. Kelly had looked at this earlier and commented that maybe it should also state 3 to 6 months as specified by the job description. Would be a good add to this. Anyway, and during such qualifying period, the employee may be removed from such position by the official when, in the judgment of the official, he or she has not demonstrated his or her fitness for the position. When an employee fails to successfully complete the qualifying for status period, he or she may revert to a position in the same department and pay rate of the former class. Placement action shall be effected in the event it is not practical to return to the person's former position, and the employee shall be offered any available position for which the person feels is qualified in the department. His or her? I think I got too many his, her things in there.
Well, I just wanted to make sure you saw that, cause you fixed it all the way through, or pay rate of the former class.
Yeah,
Not even have a he, she.
I like that.
And her. I forgot,
So,
Yeah.
I circled it to come talk to you and I forgot.
I seen that, so I did have one thought or question I asked
Gosh,
Phil
darn
to
it.
maybe be prepared a little. Number one, this is already in the book, right?
Yes.
And it says 6 to 12.
That's what it says.
And the request was to go to lower that to 3 to 6. And my question for Phil was, you know, I'm struggling with, the need for this at all. And I guess I'm just saying, hey, if someone's not performing the way they're supposed, of what you expected, aren't you as a supervisor going to do whatever you need to do, whether it be move them down to where they were before? This guarantees them virtually that they're gonna get to go down to where they were before. And, I'm just wondering if that all needs to be promised, so to speak. And I'm just thinking that if you're having difficulty with an employee, you're gonna deal with them like you would anybody, whether they're on probation or not, in my opinion.
Doesn't this allow for sooner promotion time?
Microphone, please.
What's that? This allows for.
Just the way I'm reading it, does this not then change the promotion? They could potentially get promoted sooner. Are they doing an excellent job? Or am I reading that wrong? 6 to 12 in a promotional position until they've set of 3 months, so they could potentially be promoted within 3 months instead of having to wait 6 to the.
They're
They've already
already
been
promoted. This is
They
a
were
promotion.
promoted the day one, is when they got the promotion.
They've
Okay.
been our employee for at least 6 months before they could be in this situation.
Out of probation, but they were promoted back on day one.
They're promoted and they're on probation for 3 to 6 months for the new position, new
Right.
job description. It is pretty common that personnel policies provide for probationary periods. when there's a change in job description and status. It gives everybody a marker to the employee to know that during that time period, he's not gonna be at necessarily risk of, if he has an oops, he's gonna get bounced. It's a chance to learn the new job, to be mentored and tutored about the new job, and gives kind of a marker for everybody to say, okay, based upon the job description, you got 3 months, we're gonna work with you on this, and then after 3 months, we expect you to be able to do the job without all those other efforts on behalf of your supervisor.
So probation, technically, the way you're describing it, probation is, I always think that a probationary period is a period that is helpful to the employee. It gives them, a time period of trying to qualify, but you're almost describing it as, maybe you are, and
No,
then,
I
but
agree
the
with-
end of 3 months, then
I agree with what
then
you just
that
said.
next day, you could say, okay, your probation's over, and so, yep, I'm not satisfied, and so I'm gonna move you back to something else.
I think I agree with both things you just said.
It could work either way.
Yes.
It could work as an advantage to the employee, it could actually work as a detriment to them.
Yeah, it's your time period to step up and get it done, and demonstrate that you're the right person for the new promotion. And then at the end of that time period, the supervisor should be having a sit down and saying, okay, this worked out, congratulations, you're good to go, or it didn't work out and we're going back down.
And 3 to 6 months means exactly that anywhere in between, could be
Well,
50 days, it could be,
we're-
or
My concern
100
with it is that the employee needs to know for
What
that
it is.
promotion, is it 3 or 6 months, and it can be based upon the job description.
right, I
And
like
that's
that,
identified at the time of the promotion,
Yes.
correct?
I
Yes.
agree.
Yeah.
They'll know
It-
when they're promoted, whether I'm on probation for 3 or 6 months, and it'll be in the job description.
We
I
need to
agree.
identify that in this
I think
policy?
that,
We just did.
yeah,
You think it's
as
covered pretty
specified in the new job description, yes,
I
right
just
there.
added it, I just added it.
Adding that on the fly, you feel's okay, Gene?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it's like-
normally, all
We'll be
of this
adopting that
comes,
policy.
yeah, I know, but normally it all has to come to us from the Personnel Policy Committee.
Well, it's a
And it-
recommendation, but this board has the final.
Well, we can't
Yeah.
just change it anything we want.
I don't think that we.
This isn't
changed
substantial
this
enough.
significantly.
And if you think
I
it's
think it's
okay,
more-
then I think that
I
we can
think
do
it's
it.
Blame
more
it
of
on
a-
her, you can
Blame
blame
it
it on
on
her.
me.
Yeah.
I think it's more of a clarification
That's where
than
I
it's,
I agree.
because you raised those concerns
I
at
agree.
that meeting.
Right, at that meeting, I told them that I'm gonna bring this up to Phil,
Yes.
so. Okay,
See, Kelly, you sent this to me this morning and I was ready for it.
Good, man.
That's
Nice.
good, thank you.
Considering you're not contagious.
Okay, I guess
Okay.
you gotta vote on that.
so with that modification, is everybody okay with it?
Are you okay with everything?
Yeah, I am, yeah.
No issues.
So is there a motion to approve it?
I'll make a motion to adopt policy number 3010.000 with the changes and modifications that were made.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Go ahead and vote.
Ken,
Yours didn't go through.
5 yeses.
Now it is, yeah. All right, motion's carried. We'll move to the next one, which is the last one, I believe,
Yes.
which is, discuss and consider personnel policy number 1600, harassment in employment.
Okay. As the policy states right now, I mean, we talked about more in the policy at our meeting, but the only change we had was to, further explain the scope. Cause currently it says this policy applies to all county employees, including elected and appointed officials and those in voluntary capacity serving Scotts Bluff County, herein referred to as county employee. That's what we wanted to clarify.
And I'll mention that, the intent was to include us and to include people like the planning commission or anybody acting in behalf of the county, would obviously be held to this standard,
We don't have Phil in there.
yeah.
I'm acting on behalf of the county.
That's it, and contract people.
It would fall under the, this is from
And you're kind of appointed.
He's appointed.
Somewhat,
I guess you
Well.
could say that.
not yet, but kind of.
Oh, you are too, Phil. It says you're covered. You're acting under a voluntary capacity.
You know what?
I was like,
I voluntarily send in my bill every month.
So anyway, it's just asking everybody to
You think anybody could make me do this?
do what they're supposed to do.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just to encompass everyone.
Right.
it's kind of protects the one who's being harassed. I mean, we have grounds to single out anyone.
Right.
Persons in position of authority need to be included.
So
Yeah.
what's the consequences for an elected official, or if it's one of us?
You get sued.
I mean,
You
as
could
far
get
as the
arrested.
immediate consequences, there's none as far as the personnel manual is concerned, right?
Nothing immediate. I don't believe so.
You could
I'd
be
have to go-
recalled.
Right.
Well,
Recall.
that would take the public to do that. I'm talking just within the county.
I don't think there's a immediate, I think if you get called out on it publicly, I'll guarantee you there'll be some
There could be some.
repercussion anyway.
So that includes emails or texts or
Oh,
anything else?
everything,
Yeah,
everything,
absolutely.
everything.
Good.
You know,
Yeah, I think it's a
Everybody needs to be held
good idea,
accountable.
that's right. We all need to live up to the standard. All right, is there a motion on this item?
I move that we approve the harassment, the changes to the harassment and employment policy 1600.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, we can vote.
You have 5 yeses?
All right, motion's carried. I am gonna mention one thing while Gene's still here, and Phil, particularly, you need to hear this and possibly do some work on it, but, and this is an update for the commissioners. We've talked about pay, and whether we wanna stay with 1 month, or every 2 weeks, twice a month, and some other options. And then the discussion finished up at that meeting saying that, any changes to those personnel policy things, generally are, they normally start with the personnel board and normally employees from the county. Every once in a while, the commissioners suggest something to be considered. But the answer that was given and at our meeting was that how often we pay is decided upon by the Personnel Policy Board, ratified by the commissioners. And, number one, I'm interested if that's correct, or does the commissioners have the authority to change that on their own? Because basically what I told the committee was, there's no reason for us to talk about it anymore up here if it doesn't come from the Personnel Policy Board. If that's correct.
It's addressed in the policy, but it doesn't mean the commissioners
it's in
couldn't
the
mandate
commissioner's
it, I
policy.
suppose, and we have to change the
So
policy.
can you look that up for us and let us know? We don't need an answer tonight.
Okay.
But if you'll look that up for us and let us know for sure.
Just
And-
concerning compensation or pay, or any rules?
Well,
Yes, any
no,
rules.
specifically here is for pay. Can we change it to paid every 2 weeks or whatever?
So-
Do we have the authority to change that?
Well, can I have him looking into my question is, can we do a claim for somebody that's put in 40 hours already for their salary, completely hold it out, of their or their pay. They'll still pay their taxes on it, but can you pay somebody that way? The whole problem is if somebody starts and doesn't get paid for 5 weeks. Could we
Okay,
do a claim towards hours worked and then withhold that, do a payroll deduction?
Well, let's talk tomorrow.
so to me,
Thank you.
yeah, to me,
So-
that's a different issue, but one of the stories was,
It's a good issue.
we thought that the county employees would be totally in favor of getting paid every 2 weeks rather than once a month. But then come to find out, that's now not the case.
Well,
They
I
like to
think it's
sponsor the
because of, they
They-
have a lot of payments coming out of their account.
Right.
And so it's just such a pain
To change.
to change that, but we
Right.
talked about, I think Charlotte mentioned she would rather do every other week because it would be easier for her.
And our transit manager would rather do
I-
twice a month.
So they
But
get 52 payments.
If we can get the time clock going for the detention center and maybe whoever has, variable shift differentials, that kind of thing, if we can get that going, then, we could give some lead time, like 3 months.
Right, and again, this isn't on the agenda, I think
No.
we need to probably move on, so.
That's true.
Most importantly, Phil, for us, I was asked to take it to the Personnel Policy Committee, I kind of did, and then the discussion started to center around, if that wasn't recommended from the Personnel Policy Board, do we have the authority to change it? Okay, so that's our question, and if you could find out for us, we'd appreciate it.
And I have a lot of inventories for you guys to sign. If you could take action, then we could keep talking about stuff,
Okay?
please.
Well, I think, because it's not on the agenda, I think we need to keep moving.
Yep.
So the next item is to receive the inventories from, the list is here, management accountant, surveyor, emergency management, communications, GIS mapping, detention center, clerk of the district court, sheriff, extension, maintenance, county judges and magistrate, veteran service office, public defender, county attorney, and transit. And you've forwarded that stuff to us, right, Miss?
Electronically, you do not have them in your packet, but I do
Right.
need you all to sign them all, so that you've
Sign them
reviewed them.
all, right.
If
But
you would receive them for me,
it was sent to us electronically, okay?
I read them all.
And so we need to sign them here, she's gonna pass
can we make a
them.
motion to receive them?
I'll
since
make a
we-
motion to receive inventories from the listed departments.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second, let's vote.
Okay, you have 5 yeses?
Okay, so the motion's carried. Kelly's gonna be running these through, that we need to sign these inventories, that we receive them.
You finished with me?
Well, unless you're gonna try and call a crazy executive session after you walk out or anything.
No.
As far as I know, there is no executive session, so, is it okay if Phil leaves?
You don't need to watch the same.
I think that'd be all right.
Alright?
Just make
you,
up
Phil.
a quick.
Thanks.
make
The
up a
old
quick
business, clerk of the district court window remodel, any new information on that?
Just make up
You think it's done?
I thought that's what they reported last
I
time.
knew we were very close to
There's
it.
still some.
Couple
there was
minor-
something minor about getting it closed after hours. I thought there was
I have
discussion
no
about a gate.
idea.
Yeah, I thought there was maybe still one or,
I haven't
Two
heard
things.
anything.
Let me see.
Missed one already. About that.
Okay. Good night, Phil.
Thanks, Phil.
so, Miss Kelly,
Yeah?
oh, we just signed down here at the bottom, I guess is where they're signing.
Next?
Yeah, so the next item is the time clock plus and payroll process. That was mentioned just a little bit by Jean, while she was still here.
Yes,
Any-
we've been in contact, we paid a fee to get the integration going, and it's gonna take 4 to 6 weeks, I believe, to get the product working, and then we will be trained.
I used part of yours.
And
Sorry.
then, once we get that, then we'll be able to
begin using time
Pushing.
clock to import into our MIPS payroll system.
Right, and making sure that everybody's participating.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, we'll start small. We'll start with small offices and build on.
Okay. All right, any questions on that? All right, if not, we'll go on to the next item. The next item is public comments. The board, will receive public comments on items discussed at this meeting, or suggestions for items of discussion at a future board meeting. Board will not take action. We maybe should have kept Phil here. Come on up.
All right, Kelly, as the chairman asked, my name is Reginald Preston. I live at 3719 Five Oaks Drive, Scotts Bluff. Thanks, gentlemen, as always, for the opportunity to speak. Just to make sure you're all equally informed, I did have a chance to pass something to Charlie, but you're all a captive audience, and certainly you've got the forum to discuss if you need to avoid towing the line of open meeting laws. So tomorrow morning, Banner County Commissioners will be having an agenda item where they'll be discussing a solar project inside the county of Banner. And tomorrow evening, the developers will be holding a public meeting at the Banner County High School as they work towards building a solar facility that's equivalent size and scope to the one that was the Sichela project that was denied here a couple months ago. And just to give you the information, because I'm certain going to get asked, it's 2 miles away from the site that we briefed you on and requested the CUP for. If you stand at the southern end of our site, you can see the northern end of their site, and it is immediately adjacent to the county line between the two. Also to be, just to pass, the reason that site is being developed is because the site in Scotts Bluff County was denied the CUP. They saw an opportunity with Banner County's much less rigorous zoning requirements than Scotts Bluff County has, so they're working down there to get a project going. But also to be even more clear, Dunley remains committed to the Sichela site in Scotts Bluff County. And I'm not going to speak for them, that's what they told me, and they'd welcome the opportunity to speak to you, I'm sure, if you were interested. And of course, we, the family, remain equally committed to the site in Scotts Bluff County. So, in summary, again, I'm still continuing to encourage and ask for your support for responsible solar development here in Scotts Bluff County. You're in a position where you may have all of the the nature of the burden that the county might bear could be debatable, but whatever it is, it would be for that site that's 2 miles away, and you would lose all of the opportunity that comes with process control, product control, and obviously the significant opportunity in the revenue coming in. Watching you guys suffer through the budget of the last 4 months, I don't know if that changes your viewpoint on where we could go in this state with the nameplate tax, possibly with a little help from the legislature, but nonetheless, there is a huge upside, at least in the revenue side, from the standpoint of getting it on the right side of the county line. Potentially, there's 2 projects. Both projects could be viable. That's an engineering problem that remains to be answered by a lot of people with very sharp pencils. So with that, I just wanted to pass that information so that you're aware of the relative location and the fact that they're having some meetings down in Banner County.
Appreciate it. Any questions? Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
And I will just comment that I believe the Gearing site, I think they got started on that, if I'm not mistaken. So they said they would be. I think they did. Anyone else? Public comments? All right, if not, we'll go to the next item of board and staff reports with discussion. Let's start with staff. Kelly, do you have anything?
Not that comes to mind.
Okay, Bert?
Just the minivan to go pick up as soon as I get paperwork.
Okay. Sheriff? No? Lisa?
State of the Valley, who's presenting, and I need a picture.
Well, that's a good question. I hadn't been asked, and so, I didn't know if they had already asked you or not. So.
I gave them your name, but I need
Okay.
a picture. Do we have just a picture of you?
You should, but if
Kelly,
not,
do
I
you?
have one
Oh,
from
guess we don't. All right.
election time or something, but I have one, but I'll do it if I need to. I guess, you told them that you thought I would do it.
It's usually the board chairperson,
I'll,
so
yeah,
I'm bringing
I'll
it up.
talk to them, and then maybe I'll talk to you about primary subject.
When is it?
It's the 23rd or something next
It's
month,
like the last week of the,
October.
Not till
I
October,
really,
okay.
yeah, it's the end of October. I really don't know.
I think it's, I wrote it on my calendar at the office. Okay, anything else, Lisa?
No.
Okay, Russ?
I met with the airport board on Wednesday, and they did their budget as well. They had $9 million worth of airport taxiways. They're gonna be rebuilt this year. And well, there wasn't a whole lot of anything else. And then, oh, what's the other one I had? Can't even say it. Cirrus House, met with Cirrus House, and they're having problems collecting some money from Molina Group. I guess it's for some, psychiatric care type things. Other than that, everything's running pretty smooth.
Mike?
I meet with the extension board tomorrow night, and I've been asked to speak about the budget. That's about it.
You're also the council or commissioner representative for County Government Day tomorrow
Right,
here, right?
right.
So that's good.
Is that tomorrow?
Oh, yeah.
I bet that'll be,
That's what I had.
Okay,
Yeah.
you'll enjoy that.
so that's tomorrow.
Did it last
I
year.
bet it'd be fun to do.
I'll just mention that I had the Panhandle Public Health District meeting. Most of you maybe already read that Jessica Davis got appointed as the new executive director, I think we call her. And she's I think a 20-year, employee of Panhandle Public Health. She lives in the Hemingford area. She works out of the Hemingford office. But anyway, will be the new director I think effectively at the end of the year. I also attended the regional governance, meeting at WNCC. One of the things they talked about was they are, planning a new remodel project of the Harm Center to, expand their nursing, program even bigger. They said that, even that, this remodel, for nursing would still suggest that they may have 2 times as many people wanting nursing training, than what they have space for. And so, he doesn't know when that might be able to catch up with that, or some other facilities might, but nursing training right now is
What was
in
that
high
for?
demand.
What was that regarding?
A remodel that,
For what?
Regional governance.
oh
Thank
yeah,
you.
I was at regional governance. And then, at the very end of this, maybe Kelly, if you could tell us about any other future dates, for meetings, so. Ken, go ahead.
I didn't go to the Kaplan meeting because we were here. I had, aging office. Biggest concern in there is we're dealing with tremendous amount of homelessness right now. Trying to get some cooperation from both Region 1 and Kaplan.
Can I mention something on that subject? So I've had 3 inquiries in the last 3 days about I'm gonna call it the tent city that's
Lakota
coming
Center.
up at the Lakota Center.
That was the main topic
Yeah.
that we talked about.
And so I don't know if any of the rest of you have had any comments on that, Sheriff, I'm sure you have. Yeah, so, anyway, I have on my list at the office, I'm gonna try and talk to Mr. Kevin Spencer, maybe tomorrow, and ask him what's happening there.
I don't know if they've had any issues as far as police are concerned, but I don't know that for sure, but there's just some, and there's.
They've been there.
Yeah,
I don't know what the issues are, but I know they've been called in.
Okay. But that was,
Go ahead,
and
sorry.
so that carried over into the Region 1 meeting also, so there was a lot of discussion. if there were any of the, as far as mental illness were concerned. They needed to start with Sarah's house, and there was a whole bunch of stuff that needed to happen before they got the help that they needed, and, so that was it, and then we had the, disability one. That was a very short meeting, probably 15 minutes, so there wasn't a lot going on with that.
Okay, is that it?
Yeah.
Charlie?
So we had tourism last week, some changes coming there. We did have his resignation from the board. Tina Workman was appointed to be the, City of Gearing Tourism Director, so, kinda discussed amongst ourselves and thought maybe it'd be best if she resigned. Didn't wanna have a conflict of interest there with her promoting gearing facilities and that sort of stuff, and so it was a pretty easy conversation. It was her suggestion. We agreed. And then there's another resignation possibly coming, due to a board member who's planning, a lot of travel in the next year and, needing to miss more than the allotted 3 meetings. And then there's another board member who, attendance is being audited to see if that person has missed the more than 3 meeting limit. So we could have some, we have at least 1, possibly 3 new appointments to make, in the immediate future, and then also a 4th position that will need to be filled, at the first of the year. So that 4th position is just somebody who terms off after doing 2 consecutive terms, and the 2-term limit is in effect for that group. And so at least 1 immediate, at least 1 for sure in January, and then possibly 2 more coming up. So we have some plans to move to a biannual award calendar. So rather than, right now, we accept applications on a rolling basis. Just as they come in, they get awarded. And I think that has led to a lot of what I call dinking and dunking down, through the budget, where we're doing $3,000 here, $4,000 there, $7,000 here. And we're not able to do a whole lot of large, more meaningful projects. And so I think going to a calendar where we only make awards twice a year, we'll be able to create a more competitive application process. And so if we have a period in October and then maybe a period in April, or something like that, we could say, okay, hey, here in this window, we've got $250,000 to award, and bring it, and we'll tell the public, bring us your best proposals, and then we'll do that again in April. And the hope there is to have a more competitive grant process and get everybody's best foot forward when they submit their projects. I did not go to the PAD meeting. I've been to a couple PAD meetings here in the last couple months, and just to be honest with you, I don't know that the county gets a lot out of PAD. It really is there to support, I believe, those smaller towns in the valley. And the county definitely benefits from those towns getting that help. So I think it's important that we support PAD, but there's just not a whole lot of movement there recently. So
Do many of the officials from those small towns come to those
they
meetings?
do, and
Good.
those are the most active people.
Okay.
They're bringing the most to the meeting and contributing to the meeting the most.
Good.
They are very active. Yep. So TCD is this week.
the next item is legislation, so do you have anything on that, Charlie?
Nothing on legislation.
Okay, anyone else on legislation? Then Kelly, before we adjourn, any meeting dates that we need to be aware of?
Well, we got joint public hearing, and it's on our website, front page, like we're supposed to do.
September 24th.
That is September 24th at 6:05, Mitchell High School Auditorium.
Mhm.
And then if I go to the Board of Commissioners page, or
20,
maybe our homepage,
25th is,
25th is our Panhandle District
Yeah.
meeting in Bridgeport.
right,
I believe Dual County is our host.
Mako. Mhm.
And then Lisa has our tax request and
Budget.
Budget proposed hearing, no, it's not a hearing.
the wording's on
Appropriations
today's
and-
agenda.
September
We've got that
26th.
at noon on the 26th
Right, at noon.
at noon.
Do you just need a majority for that, or, okay, I may not be there. I'm taking my wife to the doctor at 11, I don't think we're gonna be done by then.
Well, do we need to change the time?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
If all you need's a simple majority, you'll be all right. I assume.
Yeah, we looked that up one other time, no, I don't
Yeah.
have to have a majority.
Okay,
What's your percentage one?
That was at 1%.
The lid?
Yeah, the thing
had
is.
to have
Okay.
75, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, and our next regular meeting is
October 7th?
October 7th,
So,
and then another one on October 21st, right?
Correct.
I don't know.
Alright,
this is making me old.
one other meeting that I've noticed, this past week was the meet and greet for the new emergency manager, for those of us that haven't met him officially yet. That's September 24th. Said 9 to 5.
9 to 5.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have done it.
This week.
Right. That's what
If
the,
that's what you're thinking for us.
that's what the flyer said was
What
You
day?
should be here Wednesday or
September
Friday.
24th, 9 to 5,
Was it all day? I didn't look that close.
so. Anyway, if you're able to get to that, that'd be great. Okay, anything else? If not, meeting's adjourned.